All right. Good evening. I know. I call to order the regular meeting of the Grover Beach City Council, Monday, April 28th, 2025. This meeting may also be viewed on cable channel 20 in Grover Beach and is available on live streaming on www.slow-span.org. Members of the public may provide public comment during the meeting by attending the meeting or calling 805-321-6639, and the phone line is now open. We're going to start with our flag salute, and tonight our flag salute will be presented by Pearl Pavone. She's going to come stand up here. Pearl is 8 years old and in the 3rd grade at Grover Heights Elementary School. Pearl loves to play with her friends at school at recess, and in the classroom, she enjoys math. She enjoys living on the Central Coast because of the sunny beach and the great ocean. Pearl would love to attend college to be a veterinarian. Outside of school, her hobbies include playing hockey and softball. She also loves to play games with her siblings, which you see a few of them here and a few of them are at hockey practice tonight. So Pearl is accompanied by her mom, Urine Pavone, and possibly then dad, sorry. And then this is a fun fact. Pearl is the 3rd of Pavone siblings to lead the flag salute when they've been in the 3rd grade. Her brother Mobius and sister Halama both led it too, and there are 3 other siblings to come after Pearl. So we're gonna have flag salutes covered, everybody, don't worry. All right, we're all gonna stand and Pearl.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you want a picture with the family? The rest of you? Yeah, come on up. Good job. All right, now I will call on City Clerk Sims for the roll call.
Councilmember McCory Driscoll.
Here.
Councilmember Tuggle.
Here.
Councilmember Wyrick.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Robert.
Here.
Mayor D.
Here. I'll call on City Attorney Lamelli for closed session announcements.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. There was no closed session last
Wonderful.
meeting.
Moving right along. Okay, now for the agenda review. Council members, do any of you have any questions or changes that you would like to make? If there are no changes, can I have a motion
I'll make a motion that we accept the agenda.
and a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, we have a consensus. So on to our ceremonial calendar. So the first one we have is the proclamation for National Foster Care Month, which is being accepted by the SLO County Social Services Program Specialist, Christy Launder. So if you want to come up here, and I've asked Councilmember McCory Driscoll to read the proclamation.
Okay, great. Whereas the County of San Luis Obispo and the City of Grover Beach are committed to ensuring all children have safe, stable, and loving homes when they cannot remain with their biological families. And whereas there are more than 420,000 children nationwide, including 28,000 in California, are currently in a foster care system. And whereas there are over 200 children and youth in the county of San Luis Obispo in the foster care system. And whereas the county of San Luis Obispo Department of Social Services continues to actively recruit more resource families to ensure children have nurturing homes in which they can heal, grow, and thrive. And whereas National Foster Care Month recognizes the critical role of resource families in providing nurturing, stable homes and highlights the ongoing need for more families to support local children. And whereas this month-long effort, which is mirrored across all 50 states and the District of Columbia, celebrates resource families and encourages more individuals to positively impact a child's life through foster care. Now, therefore, and be it resolved that the City of Grover Beach City Council does hereby officially proclaim May as National Foster Care Month in the City of Grover Beach, and in so doing encourages all residents to join in raising awareness and supporting foster care and resource families in our community. In witness therefore, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Grover Beach to be affixed this 28th day of April, and of course it's signed by the mayor.
Wonderful. Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Christy Launder, and I'm a Program Review Specialist for the Department of Social Services. I would like to begin by thanking the Grover Beach City Council for presenting the Department of Social Services with this proclamation. During the month of May, we're almost there, we are incredibly proud to honor all of our county's resource and adoptive families, as well as all the county staff and community partners that support these families. Foster care is a critical safety net for any community. When a child's home environment is deemed unsafe, they may be placed with a resource family, which could be a relative, a non-related extended family member, or a certified community-based home. These families provide a safe, caring, and stable environment while the child's biological family works toward reunification. Resource families are an essential component of our ability to care for youth in foster care. Unfortunately, like many counties across the state, we are experiencing a severe shortage of resource families. This means fewer opportunities to match children with families that best meet their specific needs, which can lead to placement disruptions and compounding existing traumas. Last May, the Department of Social Services launched the 75-25 campaign with the goal of developing 75 new community-based resource homes by the end of 2025. This includes 25 homes for teens, 25 homes for school-aged children aged 6 to 12 years old, 15 homes for children 0 to 5, 7 emergency foster homes, and 3 shelter homes. Currently, we've secured about 35% of our overall goal, but we need the community's support to reach our goal by the year's end. If successful, this initiative will transform our ability to provide better placement matches for youth in care, also supporting existing resource families and strengthening our overall foster care system. We're calling on the entire county of San Luis Obispo community to rally behind this event. We encourage interested individuals to attend one of our bi-monthly virtual information meetings to learn more about how they can help. You can register for these very easily by calling 805-781-1705 or visiting our website at www.slowfostercare.com. Lastly, we would like to ask for the support of this City Council to help spread awareness regarding our initiative by sharing digital content, which you will all receive, and by word of mouth. Together, we can reach our goal and provide essential care and stability for our county's most vulnerable children. Thank you again for recognizing May as National Foster Care Month.
Thank you so much. Did any council members want to make any comments at all? Thank you. Thank you so much from all of us. Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, now I will call on City Manager Bronson for the introduction of new city employees.
Thank you and good evening, Mayor and Council members. I always love the opportunity to introduce new city employees to the council and the public. It helps put faces to names and shows the public servants that we have in our community. So the first of two employees that I'll be introducing tonight is Community Services Coordinator Rosie Rodriguez. Rosie is a South County native who was previously with the City of Pismo Beach Recreation Division. She's a graduate of CSU Northridge with a degree in marketing, and she returned to the Central Coast a few years ago to help her family and support her community. So, Rosie, welcome to our team. Our next employee is maintenance worker Nathan Music, who's also a South County native. Nathan previously worked as an equipment operator for a local electrician and is now bringing his talent to Grover Beach. He enjoys helping out around the house and helping his girlfriend with her horse. So welcome, Nathan, to the Grover Beach team. That's all.
Okay, thank you so much. Did any council members want to make any comments?
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome to the team. We're so excited to have you both. I know that both of these departments have been needing some extra hands, and we're just so excited to have you on board. So thank you so much. Wonderful. Okay, anybody else? Good?
Thank you for contributing to our city.
Yes. All right, we will move on to our presentations, which we do have one. It is the SLO Regional Transit Authority update. I will call in Jeff Straw to present.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Thank you for inviting me here tonight. My name is Jeff Straw. I'm the Executive Director of the San Luis Obispo Regional Transit Authority, and I'm here to talk about some things that are going on in this area in particular, but also the county. So, as you know, the South County Transit Services operate two bi-directional route pairs. So we have two buses on Route 21 and 24 going in opposite directions, basically serve the Shell Beach corridor down to Pismo Beach, where it connects with Route 10, which also connects to either SLO or to Santa Maria. So every hour, the Route 21 and 24 and the northbound and southbound Route 10 buses come together at the Pismo outlets and make connections to get you in an inner city connections. The 21 and 24 also serve the Grover Beach Transit Center over at Ramona Garden. That center is operated, we call it a pulse system. All four buses come in together at once, and then they make the transfers, and then they leave at about the same time. So again, the 21 and 24 serves the Shell Beach corridor through into Rio Grande and then into Grover Beach. The routes 27 and 28 operate in the Oceano area. Again, it pulses out of the Ramona Garden Park facility, and it also serves the downtown Rio Grande area. And these services operate 7 days a week for routes 21, 24, and 28. 27 operates 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. So they run on hourly headway, so every hour the bus comes by each one of the bus stops there. So let me talk a little bit about what's been happening. When COVID hit in 2020, in February 2020, it really affected ridership, and it affected all of our lives throughout the world. But in particular, transit was hit very, very strongly. The bar graphs there show fiscal year 2018, 2019, we carried about 220,000 riders on the four routes that serve this area, and then it dropped pretty precipitously in 2020. The line graph over there, that red line, shows in February 2020 when we shut down the state, and we reduced services pretty significantly and reduced the amount of riders who could ride on a bus at one time for social distancing. So that had a profound impact on ridership. We're back to about 75% of where we were pre-pandemic today. So we are continuing to make strides. I will say that the local services, like the services that operate in this area, are coming back faster than the intercity ones. So the Route 10 service that goes between San Luis Obispo and Santa Maria, those longer routes tend to carry more commuters, and a lot of commuters started working from home. So we saw a big decline in that ridership. So what's new? Well, so we've got some exciting things going on. I hope you had a chance to see the bus outside. That's the smaller bus that we anticipated buying when we completed the short-range transit plan for South County back in 2019. And part of that was we get a smaller bus, we can bring it into neighborhoods and serve some of the other areas that aren't served. So we're excited to bring those buses. We'll have I had John bring a bus down. He'll be here till about 6:15 if people want to go take a look at the bus. Again, it's about the size of and I'll get into more details about that, but it's a lot smaller than the traditional heavy-duty buses we operate. Another exciting thing we're doing is a contactless open-loop fare payment system. So essentially, a smartphone or a chip-enabled card, you can use that to buy to board the bus rather than having to handle cash, or to buy a real expensive. To some people, monthly pass. It's $37 to buy a monthly pass, and for some people, particularly service workers, it's easier for them to get tips to pay every day. This will allow people to use either the smart card, smartphone, or we'll have a pass that you can buy and keep reloading with cash, so that you can get the advantages of fare capping. And when I say fare capping, it's $1.50 to ride the bus on the 4 routes that serve this area. So if I get on the bus, I pay $1.50. I can buy a day pass for $3. That allows me to transfer between routes and then not have to pay anything until I get that $3. With the fare capping, I get on the first bus, pay $1.50. The second bus, I pay $1.50. I ride for free the rest of the day. It also fare caps for a 31-day pass. 31-day pass is $37. So again, it's hard for some people to come up with that all at once. This allows them, say on the 14th day, you'll get to $3 a day times 13, you get to 39. You've capped it at 37. You ride for the rest of the month for free. We're also excited to bring back the Rio Grande High School Tripper, and this is an academic year only service that really serves the bell times of the school. Very popular. Right now, we're cramming that bus, the regular 28 and 29 bus, with those riders. So now we're going to bring a larger bus, a 40-foot bus, just during those times to be able to accommodate more riders. Again, if we can teach young people to ride the bus when they're young, they may ride it for the rest of their lives. Another important thing is the Ramona Park is changing. We know that you've made some changes and you've made some commitments to improve that area. Our longer-term goal is to move out of that site to use the train station. And even longer term, we just completed a short-range transit plan for the county. We're looking at a regional transit center somewhere where all the 4 routes and the Route 10 can all connect at the same time. Right now it's only Route 10 with 21 and 24. It's not a good connection with 27 to 28. So longer term, we want to make a longer term facility, probably somewhere up near Halcyon Park and Ride, or at in Walmart where there's some space over there. And then another piece we're really excited about is zero-emission vehicles. The RTA currently owns 2 battery electric buses. They're working really well for us right now. We've got 5 more on order. We'll be here by the end of the year. We're about to issue another purchase order for 4 more, so we'll have 11 here in the next about year and a half. So one of the changes that we're looking at is, this was actually adopted as part of the short-range transit plan in 2019, is taking the bus off of the routes 27 and 28 off of the redundancy on Grand. You'll see that from Oak Park to 10th Street, we have all 4 buses essentially operating on that corridor. We have some higher density developments up along Atlantic City, and with those smaller buses, our plan is to bring the bus up 9th Street, so on the one on the right over there, bring it up 9th, serve the corridor. We have to jump onto Saratoga for a block so we get to the stop sign at Oak Park. Otherwise, we'll never be able to turn left off of Atlantic City in that direction. So this is the plan to bring the smaller buses up in that area. Again, you can see the little dots are the new bus stops along the corridor there. So on 9th, about 13th, and then near Oak Park. So what do the buses look like? You've seen the bus outside. It's about the size of a mid-size U-Haul, but it's 8 feet shorter than the bus over on the right over there. That's the traditional heavy-duty big bus. It weighs about 10,000 pounds less than that big bus. It's about 6 inches narrower and about 11 inches shorter in height. So it's a much smaller vehicle, much more community correct, I think you'd say, for a smaller neighborhood. So again, our plan is to implement the Rio Grande High School Tripper in in August when school starts back up, and at the same time to make these changes up in that corridor up in Atlantic City. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or give people a chance to take a look at the bus or ask questions about it.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. I'll start with questions and comments to my right. Any questions or comments?
I don't. It all sounds really exciting. I love the electric buses. This is small, and just curious, do they not have little electric buses?
Not yet.
Yeah.
So we're actually getting a demonstrator. Director D serves on this the RTA board. On your agenda will be the demonstrator bus that we're going to check out, but it's going to be a little bit smaller than this. So it's more the door-to-door for people with disabilities van. But we hope at some point we'll be able to get enough battery capacity on a bus that small to operate.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you for that presentation, coming tonight, excuse me. When are you going to move the bus stop over at Ramona Park?
Well, it's really a matter of your timing. We're pretty flexible. We just replaced the shelters over at Ramona Parks, and they are movable.
That's what
so we could move them over to the train station. The challenge of the train station is we had to wait till we got these smaller buses to go over there. There's not enough curb space for the 35-footers, but now we can make this change. We may not actually move all 4 routes over to the train station, just because there's not a lot of demand for transit right there, so it's not a real generator of transit trips. So we're still looking at how we'll phase that, depending on the phasing of the improvements over on Ramona Park.
Okay, thank you.
Questions and comments to my left?
Thank you, and great presentation. I'm curious why you chose the places you chose on Atlantic City. And I'm assuming there's some survey or research behind that. I'm just curious.
Well, a couple of reasons. One thing, we want to make sure that we're not impacting the nearby houses. So a couple of those bus stops are near the park right there. It's already a red zone. There's a crossing nearby. We tend to do them on far sides of intersections, so we travel through the intersection and then serve the bus stop. So we're looking for clear bus areas where, again, we don't want to put a bus stop right in front of somebody's house. So we put them on the sides of homes or in areas where there isn't a direct need for, like we don't want to paint red curbs everywhere. So we're really trying to reduce the impacts to the neighborhood.
Brilliant, thank you. And then I noticed too that it looks like we're losing some stops on Oak Park Boulevard.
Yes, and we've had some trouble with those because of the crossings there. So if you're going in one direction, it's great. But if you have to cross that street, it's not easy. So what some people end up doing is they may ride 4 blocks to get to a place, but then they have to ride completely all the way back around, so they don't have to cross that street. So we tend not to like the bus stops we've never liked the bus stops on Oak Park because of that reasoning. But you're still within a quarter-mile walk with the new change there.
Okay, it looked like it was pretty close. All right. And then my last question is, how are you planning on letting all of the ridership know of these changes?
Great question. I forgot to mention that. There's a flyer that I passed out at the dais up there, and I've got some in the back here. We've mailed that to every location within a half mile of that corridor. So that should have been, over the weekend, the people in that whole corridor should have gotten a letter from us explaining that information.
Yeah, the only question I have is just because we always hear like the impact and stuff too, that when things change from residents who are usually like I didn't know this happened, even if it got advertised earlier and promoted. And so what would we likely hear from people where the routes now go through their area to us, and what's a good response when they're like, what's going on, why is this happening to? Because that's from what you presented, we understand, but there's always that dynamic that does come up eventually later on.
Well, certainly during the short-range transit plan, one of the things they looked at is demand density, and along that corridor, you've got a school, you've got a park, and you've got a lot of higher density housing developments up there, particularly getting rid of some of the redundancy along Grand and bringing it up to that area makes a lot of sense. We also wanted to make sure we're working on roadways that have been improved recently. I know you've done a great job in your bonding of doing new roads in this area, so we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to put routes in a place where it's not appropriate for the loads. But really it comes back to where we see the demand density, and it really comes back to the demand density along that corridor up there.
Thank you.
All right, and I'll save my questions for our board meeting. So thank you so much. Do we have any comments or questions from staff? Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Straw, for being here. And if anybody wants to see the bus, if it's still out there, yeah. Oh, okay, so then it's maybe already gone. Never mind. Bus has left the station. So, all right. Now we are going to move on to our public communications. Our meetings are designed to proceed in an organized and efficient manner to effectively conduct city business. The council welcomes and values public comments, which can be shared at the designated time from the podium using the microphone. The council requests that all comments be addressed to the council as a whole and that speakers refrain from directing individual comments at staff members. To maintain an orderly process, we kindly ask all attendees to refrain from creating disruptions during the meeting, interrupting speakers who are addressing the council, or impeding the council's ability to conduct business. Should disruptions occur, the council may need to take certain measures such as calling a recess, clearing the chambers, or in rare circumstances, canceling the meeting. We greatly appreciate your understanding and cooperation in maintaining a productive environment that serves our entire community effectively. So thank you. And during this time, the council will allow for public communication. Any member of the public may address the council for a period not to exceed 3 minutes total on any item of interest within the jurisdiction of this council. The council will listen to all communications. However, in compliance with the Brown Act, the council cannot act on or discuss items not on the agenda. And just a reminder, we are not having 2 public comment periods. There's no cap, just each person is allotted 3 minutes, but other than that, we're just letting the public, general public comment be during this time in the front. So I will start with Lynn Austin, followed by Richard Neufeld.
Thank you. My name is Lynn Austin, Madam Mayor, City Council members, and staff. Last week, 2 weeks ago, when I was standing here, the trash wasn't as bad as it was yesterday. And as you can see from these pictures, it's just getting worse all the time. I think you guys have already seen it already. This one here is actually on the Parks and Rec side, and it's much worse than this picture will actually show. It's terrible. Anyway, I'd just like to express my concern about the habitat down there. When we cleaned the first batch out, it took us almost 3 years to get them out. We finally got the fence on Marguerite and Charles Street, and for a good year we had the natures coming back, and now it's hard to find anything down there as you walk through there. There's no raccoons, or there's no rabbits, and I'd just like to express my concern. This has been going on for probably my neighbor said a good 30 years. If we could just erect that fence on Oak Park and maybe one on the end of Nacimiento there to keep them guys out, I think it would save my taxpayer money, and it would save the law enforcement from having to go down in there and ticket these people coming out. And so I just want to say this, I don't want to beg, but I'm just asking for a fence on Margarita and Nacimiento. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. Richard Neufeld, followed by Bruce Van Voort.
Hello, Mayor, council members. Going along with that same area, I'd like to note that is an ecological preserve, and I think I gave you the map showing the 2 supposed campsites in which there has never been anyone camping in those 2 spots. But the camping restriction signs do not designate that there are only 2 marked plots where camping is allowed in the preserve. Over the last few months, there's been a number of sites that have been cleared and used which are nowhere near those 2 spots. Mayor Bright told me when we got the ordinance changed that they can get the city's website and look up the areas to find the specific locations where they can camp, but apparently nobody has ever done that. Lynn and I have gone through the area a number of times to report the illegally located campsites to the police. The procedure appears to be that the site is then given a notice to vacate. If they don't vacate in another day or two, then they're given a 3-day notice to vacate. Sometimes it's up to 10 days before the site is finally vacated. And as you could see, those were just a few of the areas. There are more areas where is trash. I'd recommend you go down and take a look at all the trash in there. One note is that if a scientist or a botanist wants to set up a camp to study the area, they're required to get a permit from the city and place their tent on a 4-poster platform so as not to disturb the foliage. My question is, why is there a double standard for an environmentally sensitive area where if you are not a scientist or a botanist, you're allowed to go in there and destroy the area with no real consequences? Again, getting back to the sign, I'd like to make a suggestion that the sign should, and this is on the one on 4th Street and the one at the end of Charles Street, and those signs don't really state anything. I suggest that a sign should state that it's an ecological preserve and either say no camping is allowed or camping by permit only.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
With the same requirement of a raised floor.
Thank you for your comments. Yes, of course. Thank you so much. All right, Bruce Van Voort, followed by Bob Peralt.
First of all, I'm Bruce Van Voort, owner of Finn's Restaurant, Pismo Beach Golf Course. I'd like to thank all the city council members and Anita for helping us with our fundraisers for the 5 Cities Homeless Coalition, so I truly appreciate that. The reason why I'm here today, I haven't been to one of these hearings for the request for time extension for the lodge. And I'm just going to go over some facts because a lot of the city council members.
So I'll stop you right there. I'm going to bring you back for that item. I'm so sorry. This is general public comment.
Okay.
So I'll bring you back for that. Okay.
Thank you.
You can restart the time. Okay. So Bob Peralt. Yes. Sorry, Bruce. Thank you.
Bob Peralt, resident of Grover Beach. I have 2 things very quickly. On Saturday between 2 and 6 o'clock, if you're not doing anything, the Rotary, Grover Beach Rotary is having a fundraiser at Man Rock. It's a derby party. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll have burgers and brew and a band, and you get a chance to win stuff. So if you've got some time and are interested, please come down. The other thing I wanted to do is, based on my background as a city manager, especially in small municipal organizations, I can just tell you that I know how difficult your job is, that of your job and administration. And I just wanted to give you a vote of confidence for what you're doing. I've seen a lot of municipal organizations, small ones, throughout the state of California during my career, and I know the challenges that you all have to deal with. You have the same requirements imposed on you in a lot of ways that the much larger cities do. Your problem is that you don't have the resources generally, and this creates additional challenges. The way to deal with it is obviously through proper planning. And I was very glad to see that you put on the 218 hearing for June 9th. As someone that was actively involved in the K-14 bond project, I can tell you that I was very pleased with the city's approach to, as you open streets up, to repair that infrastructure underneath. Lots of times that infrastructure hadn't been touched since 1959. That's, roughly 60 years ago. So what I'm saying is that doing it now, keep in mind that what you're doing is rebuilding the city from the foundation up. And those costs paid now will save dollars down the line. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peralt. I do not have any other speaker slips. Does anybody want to speak on general public comment? Seeing nobody come up, is there anybody on the line?
Yes, we have Carl Bloom.
Hello, Mr. Bloom.
Hello.
Hi.
Howdy. So I'm Carl Bloom, Grover Beach. I would just like to drop a few comments here. First of all, echoing what Bob said, thanks for the work you're doing. The visibility and communication have noticeably improved, and I want to urge you to keep it up because this is something that the community asked for, and you guys are doing a great job. I also want to say it's very appreciated. The city is publicizing the rationale and timeline for the proposed wastewater increase. Like Bob said, and I agree with wholeheartedly, it's our burden to bear, and it's pay it now or suffer the consequence like Los Osos and start with a $20 million project that turns into a $180 million project or whatever the gross amount it turned into because it took them 30 years to approve it. We'd rather put this money in there and get this out of our bills now and rather than wait for higher inflation dollars because inflation is here and everything costs more. It's also important to note that this increase, unlike proposed increase for the Central Coast Blue project, which was voted down, is for improvement to maintain our current system, not an add-on, not something that I actually would have supported, but I understand why it was voted down. This is very similar, again, like K-14. This is on us to do the work to maintain so we don't have to have emergency expenses down the line. I also want to say it's great to see how Grand Avenue is coming together. The foresight of the previous councils and some of you on it have continued to allow positive growth, it's going to bring in great new businesses and residents. I'm excited for this positive growth, as are many, many people. And last positive comment, well, all I have is positive ones. So please know that the Ramona Garden improvements I can't wait for this to get started. It's going to be so neat to have that park refurbished. It's going to be a great hub for our community, and it'll be even greater. So please, again, keep up the good work. Thanks for what you do as public servants. And I emphasize public servants because I don't think anyone's doing this for the money. It can be challenging hearing comments over and over, but I want you to know that many, many people appreciate what you're doing, and the work is great work. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom. Is there anybody else on the line?
Yes, we have William Ray.
Hi, this is... Good evening, Council. I was calling in regards to the slow transit presentation, which was interesting when they put their depot up on Atlantic City. And then he turns off the truck route to go down through the neighborhood to Saratoga. Why don't we keep these buses and trucks on the truck route? There seems to be a problem with the circulation of the traffic in Grover Beach. I just saw it. You guys saw it. I mean, why everybody does it? They redirect to Saratoga. That's ridiculous. I hope our community development people and our circulation study will address this along with the slow transit. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
No, there's no one else on the line.
All right, well then I will close general public comment. Thank you to everyone who participates and speaks. Okay, now on to the consent agenda. So the following routine items listed on the consent portion of the agenda are scheduled for consideration as a group. This includes the treasurer's report for period March 1st through March 31st, 2025, the treasurer's reports for the 2022 streets bond account, minutes of the city council meeting on Monday, April 14th, 2025, and the first reading and introduction of an ordinance amending the Grover Beach Municipal Code to incorporate the fire map. That's what it is. And the city technology systems upgrades update. So I will now open public comment on the consent agenda, and I have one speaker slip, Lauren Westfall.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I was not really ready for this. Looking at your guys' treasury report, it seems like you guys prefer for allocating taxpayers' funds towards consultant. A total of $16,250, which I'm sure was coming out of the wastewater fund, that paid Tuckerfield Associate, water system consultant, and Michael K. Nunley Associates, all specializing in wastewater. You also spend $800 towards refresh delivery to the City Hall and Public Works. But it's funny, I don't see anything in your report saying that the police department or the fire station gets bottled water. Wouldn't it be cheaper to get a filtered water system like they have at the airport? Credit card charges, March alone, $31,825.65. Divide that by 21 credit cards that you guys have out there. That's $1,515.51 per credit card. It seems like we're completely mismanaging our money. We have a CSG consultant for 99 Houston pre-app review. $6,077 for Rick Engineering for grant writing. I thought we have Public Works. I mean, I understand we need some specialty people, but it doesn't seem like we pay Public Works anything. Also, I would like to know, $8,000 comes out of the wastewater fund for dog poop bags. So does that mean we're spending over $2,400 or $24,000 a year on just poop bags, since it's supposed to come out of all three funds? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Westfall. Anybody else want to speak to the consent agenda? No, is there anybody on the line? All right, I will close public comment for the consent agenda. Okay, do we have any questions from the council at all for staff? No. I think that there was a lot of questions in this public comment. Mr. Bronson, would you like to speak into any of them, including this $8,000 from the way I can't imagine that's happening, but.
I would just say that we'd be glad to meet with Ms. Westfall to discuss any of these expenses as part of our transparency.
And I think that's probably, we're working that out currently right now. So, okay, well, we will address those at another time. Did anybody want to pull or comment on any consent agenda items? No? Then can I have a motion to approve adopt the consent agenda as presented?
I'll move to adopt the consent agenda.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
And I will ask City Clerk Sims for the roll call.
Councilmember Tuggle?
Yes.
Councilmember McCory Driscoll?
Yes.
Councilmember Wyrick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Robert?
Yes.
And Mayor D.
Yes. All right, that passed. We will now move on to our public hearing, and I'm going to call on Community Development Manager Martin for the Grover Beach Lodge time extension, which is a much shorter title than what is in our agenda. So.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. Megan Martin, Community Development Director, pleased to present this 2-year time extension on behalf of Pacifica Companies, the applicant for the Grover Beach Lodge. The project is located on a 13-acre site at 55 West Grand Avenue on California State Parks property within Pismo State Beach. Development will consist of a 144-room hotel, restaurant, and 4,000 square foot meeting space, totaling approximately 121,000 square feet. The project was approved in April 2014 and subsequently appealed to the Coastal Commission. The Coastal Commission found no substantial issue with the project, and it was subsequently approved. While the city held land use authority on the site at that time, State Parks and the State Fire Marshal are now the lead permitting agencies because it is located on State Parks property. Due to the complex nature of the project involving multiple agencies, the applicants received several extensions between 2016 to 2023. And in 2022, the city revised its development code to afford multiple time extensions if a project and permit must be issued by federal or state governments. So an applicant, in order to qualify for these additional extensions beyond the typical 3 that are received, the applicant must demonstrate that delays were beyond their control and that they've used due diligence to move the project forward. In March 2025 of this year, prior to its expiration, the applicant requested a 2-year time extension. Pacifica Companies indicated in their letter that there were delays resulting from the timing for the state to review their project and their design and engineering. And after 9 months, the applicant believes that the end is in sight. So as of right now, the applicant's working with State Parks on review for site design, primarily focusing on parking design and circulation. This site design resolution will impact civil engineering, utilities, stormwater, and erosion control. Because of the complex nature of those engineering standards and the needs that they'll need to meet, the applicant has requested that 2-year time extension. And with that, staff is recommending that your council adopt a resolution to approve development application TE 25-0001 for an additional 2-year time extension for development application 10-03. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available for any questions you may have. We're also joined here this evening by a representative from Pacifica. His name is Mr. Brian Rogers. Thank you.
All right, and before we go on to questions from council, I'd like to invite Mr. Brian Rogers, to come up from Pacifica to speak a little bit into this application.
Sure. First of all, thank you, Mayor and City Council. It's good to see both new and familiar faces since my last visit in 2023. You know, we've taken the time and reviewed staff's report, and we think that, you know, everything is presented accurately, and we're in agreement on that. You know, my role here tonight is just to, again, reconnect with the council and know that, you know, we're putting our best foot forward. We have not stopped since the last extension and are working as diligently as we can through all these sort of very complex multi-jurisdiction environments. It's very unusual, and we're committed to this project. Good news is we do feel like we're at the end of the road here and hopefully close to getting approvals. What that will allow us to do once we have approvals is to bid the project and begin construction. And our ultimate goal is to have a beautiful, you know, jewel for the city of Grover Beach. We hope to be a long-term standing member of the community and a major employer. And you know, historically, we have embraced all the communities where we own hotels. As a hotel owner, we are long-term owners. I think the average tenure of ownership of our portfolio is well over 15 years. So we're not developers who are looking to just capitalize on an opportunity and leave once it's open. So with that, we appreciate your continued support and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Rogers. I'll start with questions to my right.
I know you don't have a glass, or not a glass ball. What are they called?
Yeah,
crystal ball. I knew it wasn't
Crystal
glass.
ball, yeah.
I was like, that's not right. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but if you were guessing 2 years, what could it possibly, like, would we see anything on the ground at that point, or just be closer to breaking ground? I mean, broad, I'm not trying to pin you in, I'm just curious.
And it's a very good question. We don't anticipate needing the entire 2 years as far as getting through this approval process, and that's the most critical piece. Once we have approvals, we can then really do the hard work, which is get bids on construction and start construction. I can't give you a timeline until we know that, you know,
that's good.
it's sort of, you know, the cart before the horse. We have to get these approvals in place before we can really make the other pieces happen.
And then you'll bid that project locally or statewide or nationally, or?
Most of our projects are bid locally.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Deja vu.
I know.
We're rooting for you.
You're one of,
No
you're one of the
questions.
familiar faces. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
To my left.
I'm a little bit curious about your portfolio. Can you give us an idea where some of your other hotels are located?
Very good question. We are nationwide. We have 48 hotels, which is a pretty considerable holding for a private family company. We prefer coastal assets, and we range anywhere from what you would consider a mom and pop motel to a 4-star plus resort. Again, mostly coastal. We have 8 properties in Florida. We've got a handful of properties in Texas. We've got 6 assets in the Las Vegas metro area, and the balance of our portfolio is coastal California and Oregon. So again, we kind of do a little bit of everything on the hotel side. Our focus really is on finding good long-term investments where, we can hold for the duration, really.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was my only question.
Councilmember Wyrick?
Since you're all getting closer, so what's Pacifica doing right now, or planning on doing, to kind of increase its involvement in the community too? Because you mentioned how that Pacifica and stuff too for its different projects. So we want to be a long-term partner within the community, and obviously this project's been going on for a while too. But since you're moving closer, what should the community expect, or how to work with you?
Well, we don't have any specific programs in place at this point. Again, it's a little cart before the horse. Once we start construction and we get a local team as far as management, we can certainly meet with the city and understand what would be beneficial to all parties that are concerned. I would tell you that, we truly value the community in our ownership process. I'll give you a great example. One of the jewels of our portfolio is La Valencia Resort in La Jolla, and we acquired that, I want to say, 15 years ago. And when we were acquiring it, there was some resistance from the community as far as, new ownership, what's going to happen, because it really had been a focal point to that community. I would tell you today the hotel is thriving like it never has, and community involvement is spectacular. And where there were doubts with the community about being proud of that hotel, I think they're all erased, and we are very much a highlight of the community there. So hopefully when we get there, the same can be said here in Grover Beach.
Good, thank you. All right, so I am now going to open the public hearing, and if you want to take a seat, I'll call some people up for this public hearing. I just have the one speaker slip, Bruce Van Voort. Sorry about that.
It's okay. I won't thank everybody for helping at Fins, but before I came out to run these operations, I did massive projects in national parks. They took a lot less time than this one. That includes Yellowstone and Mount Rushmore. My last project was in Mount Rushmore, and that was a $125 million project 25, 30 years ago, which is probably $1 billion project today. And that took about a third of the time to get the permits and the processing going. The problem I have with this is that every 2 years, there's a new reason that we're just about to touch the goal line. The biggest problem I have with this, which many of the city council members don't remember, is that the problem that I have is the parking. If you go down there on any night, nobody goes down there more than I do because I work 7 days a week. 50% of the time, that dirt parking lot is filled to capacity. And it's getting busier and busier with locals going down there because it's the only place they can go and park. When originally this project was put out to bid in 2007, 18 years ago, I was hired by a company to look at this project in addition to my own company, and it did not pencil out. Okay, the project was X. It's changed to Y. My belief, the equivalency of this project, the U.S. government puts out a contract for an F-35, and everybody says, forget about the F-35. Just cross that out on the contract. Let's put tanks. And they approved it. When you change a contract a certain amount of time, you have to rebid it. Everybody who was in that room 19 years ago who bid that contract did not have the opportunity to bid on what's there now because it's completely different, in my opinion. The biggest problem with the parking is when I brought the parking up and I said the dirt field has 300 parking spaces. Why are we not including that in your studies? The word was, it's not striped, so technically it's not a parking lot. If you continue with this project, I promise you, you will have the biggest mess you've ever seen, coming from somebody who's done this their whole life in national parks and state parks all over the place. I know y'all like the bed and booze tax, you like the idea of something down there, but this is going to turn into a mess for the locals. Originally, the city was supposed to buy the Lesage Trailer Park and turn that into parking. It never happened. The other thing is I hope they warned all the new condo owners that they're going to kill their view. Now, everybody's going to tell me that it's on, you have to buy every piece of property between your property and the ocean if you want a view. So you tell me when I can buy that dirt lot and I'll buy it, but it's state property so they can.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Van Voort. Thank you so much. All right, I do not have any other speaker slips. Does anybody else want to come up and speak on this item? Is there anybody on the line? All right, nobody's on the line, so I will now close the public hearing. And I will open it up to deliberation. Who wants to get us started? Oh, no, that's fine. Thank you for jumping in.
Parking was something that I was curious about, and what are the number of parking spots that we think are going to be there, and kind of what I'm sure that I'm so new to the conversation that I am actually asking for the backstory.
I can't give the complete backstory. I might tap Mr. Bronson to provide that, but I can tell you that part of the reason why we had to go back to the drawing board was because when Pacifica Companies resubmitted a little over 9 months ago, State Parks and the State Fire Marshal responded back and said, you know what, we need to take another look at the circulation and the parking lot design here. We need to make sure that we're accounting for how the use of this property has evolved over time since 15 years ago. And so with that, their design team is working along with Pacifica to kind of reorient how those spaces would work, as well as to make some improvements into the restaurant, the Finn's restaurant that's currently there. So it is being addressed. State Parks is aware of the concerns. And as of right now, based on our parking calculations that are required for specific types of land uses, it meets all of the minimum parking requirements, as well as all of the different users of the park currently.
And then, I think this is more for you, Matt. If, let's say, we didn't approve the extension, theoretically, couldn't it still happen without us? We just wouldn't benefit at all? Because we're not really building it, or... I mean, I don't know what that looks like, but could the state get somebody else to build, or let them build without us involved, or?
So it's a complicated answer, but it's tied into the fact that this is a joint powers authority between the state of California and the city of Grover Beach. We entered into a partnership many years ago to jointly develop this site. Back then, the city had permitting authority, hence the action before the council, and now state parks and the state of California have that authority. We are permitting the off-site improvements, but ultimately the state of California is in the driver's seat around permitting. And ultimately, if this didn't go forward, then the JPA would begin to unravel, the project would begin to unravel, and then ultimately it would be starting from scratch, which is a scenario that would go back 30 years. And I'll let speculation go further from there.
But I'm not idealizing, but legally the state could do this without us if they wanted to. If the JPA no longer existed.
It is state property, so the state has primacy.
Yeah, and then they could not include us at all in it.
That's correct.
Correct, okay.
So this started off as a conference, hotel and conference. The conference is out of the picture now at this point.
The standalone conference center, that was removed from the site design approved by the council in 2018, updated site design. What is part of the design now meets the requirements for at least 4,000 square feet of meeting space in the main hotel premises.
And that would affect the parking as well?
That's included in the parking calculations.
Okay. And what are our chances of getting that property for the Lesage motorhome area?
I can't speak to that question.
Is that still maybe a possibility, or you don't know? Okay. No crystal ball. Okay. I think that was it. In fact, there was one other thing. Can I come back?
Okay. Questions and comments, or I guess we're deliberating questions. Yeah,
Certainly.
go ahead.
So my question would be, what authority oversees the parking? Is that us? Is it the state?
So the land use entitlement was approved in concept with a parking lot design that had specific circulation associated with it. Right now, the authority to oversee and approve the building permits moving forward is with State Parks and the State Fire Marshal.
Okay. Do we have an opportunity to weigh in?
The city has already weighed in and provided comment back. So as of right now, the next stage is for the applicant to make those improvements that have been requested by both the city as well as State Parks and the State Fire Marshal, and we are awaiting that resubmittal at this time.
Okay. And if we did not get what we wanted, does the state have the authority to go ahead with their approval process?
The project is designed in compliance and consistent with the approved entitlement. So at this point, it really is only in the state's hands. So there is no additional input that the city could provide because State Parks is the regulating authority and has authority over that building permit. So I guess short answer is yes. The state could move forward, but at this time, based on staff's review, there were no concerns outside of what the state identified and what we're asking Pacifica to revise in order to have a superior design for improved circulation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I guess, because I know this whole project's been talked about ever since I was a kid. Well,
And
yeah,
I was just going to say 30 years. I'm 30 years old. So.
Yeah.
My entire existence.
Yeah. So, I mean, for the joint powers, what are other helpful things for us to understand too? Because this has been going on, there's been, obviously like all these past council members, mayors, everyone's been talking about this for years and we're still at this point. So for the joint powers, what other dynamics are in play in that we need to understand when it comes to looking at not just tonight, but just in general for this?
I think I would really just go back to this is now a private development project on state property that happens to be in the city of Grover Beach, for which we generate a significant portion of hotel tax and property tax and rent revenues for a project that's been envisioned in our city for almost 50 years. From a regulatory standpoint, we have a very minor role at this point. It is a state project in the eyes of the permitting authority, and that's been a fundamental change over time. But it's their property in the end, and ultimately they have the jurisdiction over that. So it's a joint powers authority. We still meet collaboratively and cooperatively. Ms. Martin now, Mr. Buckingham, her predecessor, worked very closely. This was a coastal commission approved project by virtue of denying the appeal. At this point, the state of California is the primary regulatory agency that is overseeing this and overseeing the permitting and really making sure that it meets their parking requirements as state parks on the site for the concessionaires, for the uses, and they're being very diligent about making sure it meets their parking needs.
Okay, and the only other kind of comment I have too goes with Councilmember Tuggle saying is that essentially, with that in mind, that if we're going to have, as far as on the city government side too, any sort of benefits from what could happen, because if State Parks is still in it with us on this joint powers part, they haven't pulled out, which does give an indication that State Parks would probably move forward. And so, I mean, so I think it's best for us to, as a city government, to have involvement continue through this too. So obviously, the tiered extension, that's up to the developer, State Park, State Fire Marshal, other players and stuff too, to really see what happens through that time too. We'll see if something happens between now and then too, but I don't think we should be losing our piece in it too, especially if, like I said, if State Parks is still moving forward with this too, it shows their interest. That's my take on that.
I agree with that. I think that we want to have the most weigh in on this, and I know that parking is a huge discussion that we're having throughout our entire community. So if individuals wanted to go to, like, let's say, a State Parks, or write letters to State Parks regarding parking and regarding this project, is that a possibility for individuals or even our council members, if they saw that this was a really big issue to go with? Could they write letters or emails or attend meetings?
I don't know that there are any meetings that anybody would attend at this point in time because it's in the building permit review stage, so it's beyond entitlements. But if anybody has any concerns and they don't know who to get in touch with at State Parks, they are more than welcome to send their letters, any concerns, or give me a call. You can reach me at my email, mmartin@groverbeach.org. You can also reach out to me by our main line, 805-473-4520. And happy to help. Megan Martin.
Okay.
Happy to help.
So I heard some comments from Councilmember Wyrick, but I need a feel from the rest of the council.
No.
Go ahead. No. I was like, whoa. I know.
Yeah, no, I think we need to move forward, and as much as we can.
Can you turn on your mic?
Sorry. I'm just talking to you like we're having coffee. Yeah, no, I do think we need to move forward, but I think staying in the conversation, and I recognize the parking is real, and I also recognize it's state land, and tomorrow they could turn it into a horse stall if they wanted to as well. So the more that we can be involved, I think the better.
All right, so I'm hearing that we're all kind of in agreement. So can I have a motion to adopt a resolution?
Sure. I'll move to adopt a resolution to approve development application TE-25-0001, granting a 2-year time extension for development application 10-0-3, Grover Beach Lodge Project with the previously adopted final environmental impact report, EIR, and statement of overriding considerations, SCH 201-005-1002.
Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, and I will call on City Clerk Sims for a roll call.
Councilmember Wyrick?
Yes.
Councilmember Tuggle?
Yes.
Councilmember McCory Driscoll?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Robert?
Yes.
Mayor D.
Yes. All right, thank you so much, Ms. Martin. Thank you so much for being here and presenting. Okay, now on to our regular business. We will go on to the Enterprise Fleet Management Agreement, and I'll call on Assistant City Manager Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor D. Good evening, Council. Just to give you a little background on our current fleet management practices, we do have 24 vehicles in our fleet. Most of those vehicles are for Public Works and for the Police Department, but we do have some pool vehicles as well.
Hold on one moment, please.
For all these vehicles, we have one maintenance mechanic for the city, and that same mechanic is also responsible for a lot of the other equipment at the corporation yard. So at this point, our vehicle purchases have been fairly ad hoc and based on when we have one-time funding available to purchase them outright in any given year. A lot of the time, we were quite frankly relying on salary savings within the police department to fund these purchases, and fortunately, we are not in that situation anymore. We have a fully staffed police department. So we had to figure out a better way of funding these purchases going forward. It also, because we were purchasing outright when we had one-time money, we found that many of our vehicles were well beyond their useful life, and we were still using them, and that creates safety issues for our staff. It also increased our maintenance costs overall, because when you have older vehicles that are not in great repair, you have a lot more maintenance. Because of this staff began analyzing this process earlier this year. Our goals were to make a more predictable and steady expenditure over time, to smooth costs over several years, to provide for a reliable funding source for future needs, to reduce the burden on our single maintenance mechanic at the yard, to obtain contract pricing for our repairs that go outside of the city local repair shops, and then also planning for our acquisition and moving to leasing where possible, because we find that the lease terms are basically as long as the cars have a useful life given their use here at the city. So previously, our equipment replacement fund had a very low annual contribution, which really did not have any way of supporting vehicle replacements. And as I mentioned, we were kind of just waiting for those one-time opportunities as they came up. But as part of your council's approved budget policies earlier this year, you did help us establish a more robust equipment replacement fund with a total amount of depreciation going in each year out of the operating budget, and that will be included in the fiscal year 25-27 proposed budget that your council will be receiving later this year. And we also began working with Enterprise Fleet Management on their fleet management program within the capacity of this fund. And so we worked with them to analyze our fleet and our replacement needs and to look at our funding realities and work out a plan for the next year of replacements. And with that, I will turn it over to Dylan Goldsack with Enterprise Fleet Management to give you an overview of that program.
Thank you, Kristen, and good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Dylan Goldsack, and I do work for Enterprise Fleet Management. I've been working with the company with Enterprise for about 6 years now, with the fleet side for a little over 2. Previously, I was overseeing fleets from anywhere from 2 to 300 vehicles plus at your local rental car divisions that I'm sure you're very much so familiar with and possibly have rented from previously. But there I was managing those fleets, as I said, up to 300 plus, instilling the same philosophy that we are going to be planning to do with the city of Grover Beach for this year. So I'm excited to show you what myself, Kristen, and the team had worked with over the next several months and where we can really just maximize your guys' efficiencies and streamline the processes and overall just create a more sustainable funding source for vehicles while also maintaining those vehicles over time as well. All right. So this is just a little piece of a pie of who we work with in California for the government entities. So as you can see, if you want to point the direction towards the bottom, you'll see a lot of local representation. So we work with the Sheriff's Department up at the County of St. Louis Obispo. I actually recently also onboarded the university up at Cal Poly. For the last year now, we've been managing their fleet where we've been helping them maintain but also source vehicles for them locally. And then we also do work with the city of Oxnard managing their white fleet amongst their police department as well. And then finally, we do work with the County of Santa Barbara Police Department, sourcing out their vehicles amongst maintaining them as well. Now, the real reason why our government model or our model works for a lot of government entities is because we understand that 90% just have an unreliable funding source to source these vehicles. So we have the ability through our different funding options, through the municipal lease I'll get into here shortly, really just to do more with less with the funds that we are dealt with here. And this leads into another reason why it's our model is very appealing to the government entities is because of our cooperative purchasing agreements that we have in place with Enterprise Fleet. The one I want to point out here mainly is Sourcewell. Enterprise has been awarded that Sourcewell cooperative purchasing for several years now, and we continue in the future years. But the city of Grover Beach is already purchasing their assets, leveraging this contract for other equipment and other assets. So it's going to make it very easy for the city to piggyback off of this contract for not only acquiring vehicles through Enterprise Fleet, but also leveraging our services that we do offer, and I'll get into here shortly, where we have set pricing and it's already been vetted out through that Sourcewell agreement and RFP process. So here's a snapshot of everything that we do as a fleet consultant. As you can see, it's everything from a one-stop shop. So anything fleet related, we do. So we handle everything from the acquisition of the vehicles, different funding options, all the way to the end of the life of that vehicle where our remarketing team will hand sell those vehicles for the city, really focusing on capitalizing on the value of each single vehicle. Now, from an operations standpoint, we're going to help certain aspects through our different field programs that we offer, maintenance, risk programs, and ultimately much more. But really, the goal for us as a fleet consultant is to build a partnership and a fleet program that best supports the city's goals. So what do we do as a fleet consultant? That is the main question, and we do it through identifying the city's effective vehicle life cycle. So to give you some perspective, today the city operates their vehicles and hold them for almost about 14 years. So that would put us on the right-hand side of the graph you see here. But our goal is to optimize and streamline efficiencies and mitigate costs. And so our goal as a fleet consultant is to put you guys on that left-hand side of the graph where we've identified the optimal holding patterns for some police vehicles to be about 4 years, to public works to about 5 years based on age, mileage, and vehicle value. So 3 things that we factor in when we try to identify an effective vehicle life cycle. The first one is fuel. So fuel efficiency degrades over time as the vehicle ages, as you guys, I'm sure you're aware of, with your personal vehicles. And as more vehicles come out with better technology and more different options, just there's better technology out there to improve fuel efficiency over time. But one thing we can't control is the prices at the pump, but we can, as a fleet consultant, we can provide fluctuations on fuel efficiency and really capitalize on those high dollar spenders in your guys' fleet. The second bucket we would focus on is maintenance. So this expense increases over time. So as you run that vehicle 13, 14 years, we're gonna run into a lot of catastrophic repairs, more downtime, such as transmission, engine replacements, and things like that. Our goal is to really capture it in the first 4 or 5 years where we're only having preventative repairs, such as oil changes, filters, very low ticket items. And finally, depreciation, simply put, what you guys buy that vehicle for versus what you sell it for. Right now, government agencies are extremely at an advantage for 2 reasons. The first one is we can buy vehicles extremely low for you guys, leveraging tax rebates and incentives through the government space. But also, the city doesn't drive that many miles compared to commercial retail client driving anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 miles a year, or a commercial fleet where they're operating anywhere from 20 to 25,000 a year. The city is operating vehicles about 4,500 miles a year, where the value of the fleet is holding extremely well, and that's where our job is to come and capitalize that, where we can take those funds and the value of that vehicle and streamline it over to the next vehicle purchases to create a funding source within the fleet, rather than having to go to external sources. So this is our open-ended leasing model. One thing I do want to point out is it is not compared to a dealership lease. You hear the word lease, we get scared. But it is a little different. The reason being is that the city doesn't have any wear and tear or mileage restrictions, and they also own the equity within the vehicle compared to if you're just to lease that vehicle through your own personal. You buy that vehicle 2-3 years, and then if you want to buy it, you have to pay that market condition when that term ends. But with us, it's not that case. The city owns the equity within the fleet, bringing it back into the fleet, creating a sustainable replacement plan. So for this example, if we were to purchase a vehicle for the city at $40,000 and depreciate it over the 48 months, our goal conservatively would to be sell that vehicle for $22,500, and then we would reduce that book value down to an unpaid principal, so creating a smaller monthly payment, and then that highlighted $12,500 would be the equity that is going to be replaced into the replacement fund for the city. We're taking that $22,500 minus that $10,000 unpaid principal, and then we would roll that $12,500 into a new replacement, or the city can do it for however they want to. If it's a check, however they would like, we can do that for you. But the 2 examples on the left-hand side you can see is a slightly lower monthly payment, freeing up additional capital elsewhere, or ultimately if you guys wanted to finance those vehicles down to a 0 book value or pay cash. We have other government agencies that do that, so that's not a problem as well. But through this open-ended equity leasing, this is really the way that we help other government entities do more with less. So what does it look like for the city in year 1? Just to give you an idea of what we did behind the scenes, we took the fleet list that the team gave us, and I gave it to our fleet strategy director. And what his job is to look at all the market conditions based off of the value of every single vehicle within the market and what it's selling for today. And so we came back with a conservative estimate of a little over $37,000. So we're taking a look at 8 vehicles that we'd be looking to replace in year 1 based on a few factors. So we've identified these 8 vehicles based off of 2 things, whether they're 10 years or older, and or operate 100,000 miles in odometers. So you can see here 4 public works vehicles and then 4 police vehicles as well. You have the Impala, Sierra 1500, and the 2 Traverses, all conservatively equating to a little over $37,000. Now, what will this cost in year 1? So want to go from left to right. One thing I do want to point out is that the City of Grover Beach for Police Department will be sourcing their upfit internally through a different fund. But for the police department, for those vehicles, a total annual budget for years 1 through 5 would be a little over $49,000. And then as you can see in those sub-bullets, the annual lease payments plus the annual maintenance program is included in that $49,607. So we will be maintaining those vehicles through local shops that you guys are already utilizing. And with that Sourcewell contract and our contracts in place through those local maintenance shops, we have set labor rates, set parts, and then we have a team behind the scenes also vetting out the repairs every single time a car is going in for repairs. And then if you move your eyes down to the bottom left-hand side, the current and future equity of the fleet, so those 4 vehicles that we identified on the police department side are worth a little bit over $29,000, and that is also rolled into the leases that you see here at the top. But at the end of term, when we sell those vehicles, some are going to be holding at about a 4-year period versus those command vehicles a little bit longer at a 5-year period. Our estimated equity at term for those vehicles is almost doubled at a little over $51,000. So that number at the end of term would then be rolled over into new vehicle purchases or also a credit back to the city if they so please to utilize those funds however they would like. On the right-hand side, we have the Public Works Department replacing those 4 vehicles, all with 3/4-ton pickup trucks. The total annual budget here for years 2 through 5 is $56,533. And the reason why I have 2 through 5 up there is because we will be sourcing the Public Works Department through our local vendors. And so that year 1 outlay is going to be a little bit higher because we will be required to have 50% down to cover the expense of the aftermarket. But after year 1, the cost will even out to about a little over $56,000 in years 2 through 5. And then in both of those numbers I had mentioned previously, it does include the annual maintenance program as well, utilizing all the local shops that are within the community. Now, one big thing to point out as well, so cure and future equity for the public works side, right now for those 4 vehicles, we're estimating a little over $4,000. Now, at the end of term, those would be on a 4-year cycle time, 5-year. The estimated equity term after 5 years for those 4 vehicles would be replacing are conservatively a little over $67,000. Going back to my previous statement, that would be rolled into the fleet, keeping it within and creating a more sustainable funding source by leveraging our value within the fleet to fund future purchases. All right, finally, here's a snapshot of what our partnership would look like in year 1 for the city. I'm sure you guys hopefully had a good experience with the Enterprise Rent-A-Car, renting a car from us, but as you hopefully have seen, customer service is extremely important, not only for that brand, but us as a fleet management company. We want to make sure that we ensure a smooth transition into a partnership with the City of Grover Beach. A few things I want to lay out what the first year and what to expect with a partnership is that you will be assigned a client strategy manager amongst a account fleet coordinator who's going to be your day-to-day contact for everything fleet related, so almost like your own little internal fleet management employees. But as you can see, we'll be meeting with you about 2 to 3 times a year to provide health checks on the fleet, plan for the future years, and then also adapt to any changes that we see in the market as a fleet consultant. But ultimately, we're here to be a long strategic partner, help support the goals that you have for this year and future years. And I appreciate your guys' time, and I appreciate being here, and I'll open up for questions.
Wonderful. Okay, I will start to my left with questions. I'll give you a break.
So I'm a little bit confused between the second slide and the third slide. The second slide, you had a dollar amount of 30-some-odd thousand.
Oh.
I missed what that was. What that was. Okay, further a little bit more along, I guess. So that one. What's the 37th? I don't understand that compared to the prices on the next slide.
Good question. So the estimated market value is what we're currently conservatively valuating those vehicles for based on condition, age, and mileage.
Our existing fleet.
Exactly.
Thank you. I missed that part.
No.
Okay. All right, and I think my other question would be more to staff, knowing that we have purchased vehicles when we can, et cetera. Do we know about how much we spend on average per year on our fleet?
No, I mean, I can tell you we're spending about 95,000 on just vehicle maintenance. But it really has been spikes of expenditure, so it's really hard to come up with an average. And I think, you can see up there, we have a truck from 1994.
Right.
So there's a huge gap in some of these purchases.
Okay.
We will have a better idea, and we're looking at about $100,000 a year for these replacements out of the ERF.
And we're spending approximately $90,000 on maintenance now on those vehicles.
Yes, and we'll still have some vehicle maintenance costs within the city's operating budget, but we expect that to continuously go down as we get newer vehicles on board that are under warranty, and then also as we use this maintenance program.
Okay. That was my only question. Thank you.
And thank you for diving deep into it too. I always like someone who's not afraid of numbers.
I love numbers.
And this is actually a question for our staff too, because when you go to your almost last slide before the questions, let's see, yep, other way. That one right there. So hold it right there. So this is more a question for our staff too, since Enterprise Fleet Management on their side notes kind of how they work to communicate with us when it comes to the contract and stuff oversight to meet the city's goals, which is basically on the efficiency, hopefully cost savings, those kind of parts too. Is there a certain way that you're all looking at this and stuff and maybe have another flexibility with Enterprise Fleet Management to ensure that we're meeting our goals?
Yeah, I think so. And I think the annual meeting is going to be the critical piece where we're going to reassess both where we are budgetarily, which we all know can change, and where we are with our fleet needs.
Okay. And I'll throw one because I always like to reference to residents when they ask questions so I'll just throw this one too in case I could point to them to this meeting. So Enterprise Fleet Management, you're not the one that's down the street, are you?
The same company. So Enterprise renting cars, our fleet division, very similar, but we operate and manage fleets for other government entities.
Perfect.
Same company, different departments.
Yeah. So if someone says, what's going on with Fleet Management? Don't walk down to the other part of the Enterprise. Okay, thank you.
They can call me.
All right.
How long is the contract?
So it's open-ended. So there's no contractual period where you guys have to be in this for 2 to 3 years. It's really just based upon the leases. So for whatever reason, you have a 48-month lease, for example. For whatever reason, if this partnership goes belly up, you just continue to pay down those leases, or you can pay it off completely, and we would just transfer title to you guys, and then.
So the relationship terminates when we no longer have a lease?
Exactly.
Okay. And then the maintenance program, obviously, we're not going to revamp the entire fleet of cars all in year one. I recognize that.
Yeah.
So the maintenance program would apply to the new cars. Does it apply to the old vehicles as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then is it possible to have electric or hybrid vehicles as part of the fleet?
Yeah, This is something that we'll evaluate each year based on those different requirements, but yes, we can definitely purchase EV and hybrids.
And then to staff, our maintenance guy, he still has a job?
He absolutely does.
Just kind of want to make sure.
I will say that this maintenance program does not apply to our patrol vehicles, so he will continue to be very busy. And there's also, again, the equipment at the yard that he also works on.
Okay. And then recognizing that there's some initial uptick because we've got to not have cars that were built in 1994. When do you project out that this will be more of like a stable, predictable amount? And because when I was looking at the report, we will start to save money, but a year, what are we estimating? And then when does it stabilize?
I would say immediately we'll have a stabilization where we don't have the peaks of expenditure because that's how we're planning for it. I think that we're being conservative. We are reducing our fleet maintenance budget in light of this program. We're being a little conservative right now. I think, as I said, as we get the more new vehicles online, that will reduce even more. And at that point, I think it'll be leveled out.
And what do we think the timeline is to turn over the entire fleet? Is that 5 years out, 10 years out?
I think.
Yeah. Approximately 5 years, depending on the pace that we're at.
Okay.
Assuming that we maintain our current level of expenditure in the ERF.
Got it. All right. That's my questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. And the staff report was very informative, answered most questions. And this has been around for a while, and very successful in many cities, as I saw. But who would be the person that reports to, works in with Enterprise? Would it be the city manager, or do we have someone?
I think it will be predominantly Public Works working with them as they do manage our fleet.
Yeah, okay. And looking through the contract, I noticed in the insurance section, are you requiring the insurance liabilities and such, or is that something totally different?
Yeah, so we just require a certificate of insurance. We work with other government entities where they're self-insured, so there is a contract in place.
Okay.
But we do have, resources to leverage our risk management,
Okay. Yeah, the question I had is that I noticed that deductibles are zero. Is that something typical they do in the industry with this type of thing, with zero deductibles?
Not necessarily. It just really depends on the program that is put out in terms of the usage.
Right.
More usage just requires a little bit higher of a deductible. So it just really depends.
Yeah, I just went over my deductibles too. My
Yeah.
insurance is why I asked. And I was surprised at how much I saved in insurance premiums by increasing the deductibles. Is that something that we could look at, or have you already looked at that?
So we're self-insured, so I don't think it would make a difference.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
That's okay. I apologize. All right, never mind. Okay, that's it.
Okay. All right, my only question was, so when one of our vehicles, so with this, before this contract, when a vehicle breaks down, we would have to go rent another car, another vehicle, and that's an additional cost. But with this program, it looks like when a vehicle breaks down, it gets basically replaced for the time being as it's being worked on, and not at an extra cost at all. It's within this maintenance fee that you have. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. So the maintenance program is more so maintaining the current fleet and the new vehicle purchases through our local infrastructure that we have in place. All the local shops here are already part of our partnership. Now, when a vehicle goes down and it goes into the shop for a replacement, depending on those repairs, if it is a substantial amount of downtime, it's in the shop for 4 or 5 hours or even a day. That's where we could tap into the Enterprise Rent-A-Car, where then we would access that partnership, consolidated billing, set rates. So we would have, you guys already have a contract in place with the rental location, so you just get your set rates, and then it would just build through the consolidated fleet billing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and Councilmember Tuggle's question actually brought one to mind too, as far as since you work with local governments too, I mean, you understand that there's a transition timeline for local governments to do EV for those that exist. Obviously, if we're not talking about public safety, it's a totally different realm and stuff, but within this part, within the communications, that the fleet management would have with our city staff too, because obviously for us, that even if you had enough to basically transition stuff, our cities and stuff, completely to EV. But if we don't have the capacity to charge them on our end for our infrastructure, how does that conversation occur with you all to make sure that those are done with us moving towards compliance, but also within our capability on our city's end too?
I mean, we don't have the infrastructure to charge a fleet at this point. That is something by state law that we're going to have to start researching and looking into, and so more to come on that. We will be looking at opportunities within the city for electrified charging.
Thank you.
Any other questions before I open public comment? No? All right, so I will now open public comment on this item. I don't have any, thank you. I don't have any speaker slips. Did anybody want to speak on this item? Seeing nobody get up, is there anybody on the line? No, I will close public comment and bring it back to the council to deliberate. Who would like to start our conversation? Yeah, go ahead.
So one, I want to say thank you. I can see that it's probably going to be slightly more expensive for us to go this route, but I commend you in looking into this and taking this tact. To know that our fleet has been created because we didn't have a position filled in our police department saddens me. We have a great police department. We have a full police department, which also means that the other choice we'd have is to have this great police department with aged vehicles, and that is not what I want to see for our city, because our police department, I think, does a great job in protecting and serving. So with that, I want to say thank you for bringing this opportunity. It sounds more consistent. We can budget for it. It's predictable. It is transparent. And so I just want to say I, for one, plan on supporting it.
Yeah, no, I think this is reasonable for what we're looking to accomplish. I mean, I know these vehicles we don't have for no reason. I mean, they're put to work. That's what we need to accomplish the services that our residents, businesses, nonprofits, visitors expect. And I think that this does actually streamline quite a few things too by realistically by leveraging Enterprise's fleet management to increase our capacity to do things, because we know how much staff we have in our org chart. We know what their capacity is to reach to, and really to have basically external team leverage to do a lot of this market aspect, which takes a lot of time. I recognize that just from the slide you're going through. I'm like, yep, that looks like it's a lot of time. That looks like it's even more time. So I think this will help us not just on predictability for us too, but really to increase our ability to do more within this space too, for results for our city that's probably even beyond what this initial agreement and our original intention is too. So I see the only as positive at this point.
Great.
Yeah, anything that is proactive and not reactive and is sustainable and repeatable, I think makes everything better for everybody. So thank you for putting in the work.
I agree.
Okay, good. I'm surprised you didn't say systemize. I thought you were going to say systemize.
I do love to systemize.
So I'll say it. I know. Yeah, no, I totally agree with the rest of our council. Systemizing this process and having it catered to our needs is really important. And yeah, I just agree with all the comments made. So it sounds like we're in agreement with this, and I would like to entertain a motion to approve this item.
I'll motion to approve the Enterprise Fleet Management Agreement.
Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call, please?
And just, Mayor, would that be including adopting the resolution for this?
Adopt a resolution. Go ahead.
Yes.
Thank you.
Was that good? Okay. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember McCory Driscoll.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Robert.
Yes.
Councilmember Tuggle.
Yes.
Councilmember Wyrick.
Yes.
Mayor D.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much for being here and for speaking on this item. Before we go on to our last regular business, does anybody need to take a break? No? Yes? Yes. Yes. Okay. Let's take a break. We'll be back at 7:45. Do the thing. All right, welcome back. Okay, moving right along, we are on item 11, which is the policy direction on social host ordinance for fireworks activity. I will call on Police Commander Millard for the PowerPoint presentation.
And good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Commander Brian Millard, Grover Beach Police Department. Apologize in advance if I have to cough or you're hearing a little bit in my voice. I'm not sick, but I did go to a Dodger game. I cheer a lot and my voice is suffering. So, anyway, do my best. We're here tonight to bring to you a framework for a social host ordinance for illegal fireworks enforcement. So just to give you the brief background, as you're aware, since 2020, we've been focusing on illegal fireworks enforcement, specifically using drone technology since 2021 to help identify those violations from the air and direct our officer teams to respond and interdict where we can. Overall, illegal fireworks calls have declined over the last few years. I think the last 2024 had a total of 37 within the July 4th period, which is a significant decline. But illegal fireworks still represent a significant life and fire safety issue, and therefore we think it's important to continue looking for innovative methods to help stop illegal fireworks. At the March 10th, 2025 meeting, you heard about social host ordinances, which are being brought forward by several communities, Elk Grove being one of the most significant we used as sort of a template for our own, as well as the communities of Santa Maria, and also the county of San Luis Obispo is developing an ordinance, but theirs is still in draft form. We're not sure where that one's at currently. And we were asked to present to you a regulatory framework that would be used if you're so interested in crafting an ordinance for our city. Why are we doing this? Really, the police department is interested in developing tools to help us do our jobs. And we realize that with illegal fireworks, we have limits to what we can do. Typically what happens is we receive either a call of illegal fireworks in some area of the city, or through our drones or other officer enforcement, we notice illegal fireworks going off, usually the airborne variety that end up directing our attention. By the time an officer gets on scene, we're sometimes able to find and then identify the specific person involved. And because of the current laws, we have to identify this person specifically in the act of setting off the firework in order to give them a citation. We're not always successful in doing so. Often what happens when the officers arrive, we're left with debris in a road, or maybe the fireworks are there and there's a party around them of other people, and they don't usually tell us everything we need to know to avoid getting in trouble. So we're not always able to have successful, identifications, and that's why it's limited. And we've heard from community members that want us to do more to stop illegal fireworks. So this proposed social host ordinance would implement administrative fines against hosts, and that's for allowing or participating in illegal fireworks and basically not stopping them on their properties or actively participating. And I want to bring attention to what we would define as a host. A host would be either an owner of private property, a person who has rights to use the property, such as a leasee or rentee, and then any person who hosts or organizes a gathering and accepts responsibility for that. Those are the three definitions. The host liability is such that anyone that either allows to have, possession, use of fireworks on their property or an adjacent public sidewalk or public street, and we could identify that person, and they don't take reasonable steps to prevent that activity from occurring, then our social host ordinance would allow us to cite them administratively for a fine of up to $1,000 per occurrence for that violation. This would not apply to safe and sane fireworks, those who initiate calls to law enforcement, and if you're taking reasonable steps to try to prevent people from using fireworks, they may call us and say, hey, I'm at my property and this is what's happening. We don't want to fine those people, obviously. Those are helpful, so those people would not be applicable. And also, common areas for multifamily residential properties such as apartment complexes. Obviously, that's difficult to pin one property owner for an 8 apartment complex or common areas to try to find someone for that. The ordinance violations themselves would be a maximum of $1,000 per violation observed, and that would basically be any use of any illegal firework on the property. And if they did multiple violations of that, illegal fireworks, it would be $1,000 per violation. That's the potential. We would handle all the payments of those citations, appeals, and any administrative issues through our current Chapter 37, which is detailed in length about how to take care of administrative citations. This would only be for violations less than 25 pounds. The reason why the law and the ordinances specify that way is that anything over 25 pounds in the penal code has significant increased penalties and or jail time. I will point out that the penal code even allows us to take that sort of action for less than 25 pounds of illegal fireworks, and I specify illegal fireworks only, but this administrative citation would be the lowest level enforcement action we would take. We don't want to jail people for this offense if we can take other action, and this would be our preferred method of enforcement. At this point, that is the breadth of my presentation. I'll be open to any questions you have.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. I'll start to my left with questions.
And thank you. We all want to make sure that we do not have illegal fireworks in our city. With that, I'm confused about the host and the property owner. I know last time we had a long conversation about vacation rental owners, rental property owners. Can you get more into the weeds with that as who you consider the host?
I want to thank you for bringing up that question. It's important that we don't penalize property owners that aren't able to interdict with tenants that may be out of the area. And I think the example used is, what if you're an out-of-town property owner, you're legitimately leasing or renting a property to someone within Grover Beach, but you're not here, you're not even in the area. We certainly wouldn't go after a property owner in that regard. The registered tenant, the leasee, the rentee would be the person defined as the host in that category, and that would be the person we would hold responsible in that situation. We may contact the property owner if we couldn't identify the tenant to help us gather that information, but we certainly are looking for the person that's most responsible for that illegal use. That's the tenant on site at the property, and it would take us an investigation to determine who's responsible. We would use our drones to kind of identify people that we saw going into a house. Obviously, drones aren't effective at identifying specific facial features from the air. That's not something you probably want, but it's dark and it's July 4th. There's a lot going on and the drones are significantly up in the air. So we would be really going in and sending officers there to make that personal contact. That's what our community is about.
And thank you for bringing this back to us. A few different questions in a few different areas. As far as for, because our city, is, to my understanding, doesn't have like a rental registry, so that's why that part always seems to be difficult. But when it comes to short-term vacation rentals, for potential aspects in there too, are you all looking to have basically, because I'll put it this way, if it happens multiple years, it's pretty clear that the short-term vacation rental, property owner isn't putting it out there, basically don't do this. I mean, ideally all of the Grover Beach short-term vacation rentals, if this went through, would have in their listings, hey, 4th of July time, this isn't going to happen because of this is the consequences. But if it doesn't seem to be going on after multiple years, is there any progressive side to maybe they lose their short-term vacation rental privileges? Is that being looked at within this context as a potential consequence on that aspect of those ordinances, or are they not connected just yet?
As far as I'm aware, they're not directly connected, but I have to defer to, Megan Martin or the city attorney to figure out what kind of interweaving we could do. I would say in the short-term rental process, obviously our police department's goal is to stop the activity, and this ordinance is one tool. So we would be looking to obviously stop what's going on that night. If we couldn't immediately identify that person, certainly the city has access to those short-term rental owners, and we would be making contact with them, and it determines what level of compliance we can get. Would we cite them the first year if they're not aware? Certainly not. I think that would be a conversation, and I think there are other methods of doing that. After several years, that's a conversation I'd have to have with the city to figure out where we would go.
And with that, I mean, maybe something in the smaller side is for I mean, obviously communication of ordinances is, after, they're adopted is always difficult too, but like I said, for short-term vacation rentals, we do actually have the list internally in the city for those who are doing it legally through the city. I guess I'll just put it that way. I mean, is that something that we're able to have them, when it comes to listings for during that time period for 4th of July, that they could have some sort of disclaimer part, basically noting to anyone who does it that this dynamic's in place too? And I'm not sure if that's something that we're able to have accomplished, or at least communicate out to everyone too, that that's a suggestion the city has to, because that does show doing their part of responsibility and due diligence on their end to work towards that same goal as us without flagrantly ignoring it. I mean, I'm not sure if that's a piece that we're able to work through other channels too, as far as the implementation of that aspect.
So I can jump in really quickly, and essentially what happens with the short-term rentals is that although they are currently licensed, they do have to come up for renewal, and part of that renewal process takes into account any violations that have occurred, and therefore the city does have the ability, should it adopt this ordinance and move forward with this, that violations of this ordinance related back to that short-term rental can be taken into consideration by the city in either refusing to renew that short-term rental or providing additional conditions.
And with that, though, because of the nature of the order of who's considered the social hosts, if they're not on site and this happens, are they considered in violation, or is the person on site in violation? That's the dynamic that I was kind of getting confused by when Councilmember Corey Driscoll was bringing it up too.
So in terms of the short-term rentals on-site person or the actual short-term rental owner?
Yeah, which if it's the owner, is it the violation that has to be either of them, or because if the owner's not there and they say, hey, I wasn't there, yes, cite the people who were there, but does that count? Does the citing the other people there, not the owner, count as a violation towards when it comes to that review?
So the way that this ordinance is intended to work is it would be the short-term rental owner who would be cited, and it serves as the impetus and as motivation to ensure that if you are involved in short-term rentals, you ensure that the people who are renting at that time do not set off illegal fireworks.
Okay. Yeah, because I think for, property owners and stuff too, it's pretty clear that they know that they're the hosts. And one dynamic that I'm not sure if it's been talked about more internally in the city, but for when it comes to the actual fine itself too, the administrative fines, is there a place where those go towards yet, or is that something that it's up for us and stuff to give direction on where potentially that those sources go towards? Like for instance, and like you mentioned that, the drones are used and stuff as a way to identify the different properties. Does the money go to further support the drones program? Does it go to other places on the fire prevention side? I wasn't sure if that's an area within this conversation we're having yet or not, or if it's already been figured out internally.
Yeah, Councilmember, we would look to the council to provide direction with that. I think the staff's view is that this could be used towards enforcement activity expenses, especially for one-time items, since there's no telling how much revenue would be generated through fines. It could be 0 one year, it could be 10,000, it could be some number. So just to stress that this is not intended as a money generator for the city. This is about deterring illegal fireworks activity. And so to that end, if council wanted to provide direction that any fine revenue was put towards enforcement activity, one-time uses, staff would welcome that direction.
Perfect, because that's exactly the point I don't want people to think is we're just using it to, as a revenue source. We're using that to actually accomplish the goal of having illegal fireworks stop in our city and have all of our residents, especially in South Grover, have far less headaches to within the city limits boundaries, of course. So those are the questions I have at this time, though.
Okay. To my right, questions?
That answered most of the questions. If we can in the process since we do have a record of the short-term rental people, proactively notifying them, which I'm assuming is probably in the pipeline, but I would much rather tell you ahead of time so that then you can put it on your website or your description that you'll be passing these fees on. if they want to try to figure that out or whatever.
Yes, Councilmember, if this ordinance was adopted by the council next month, we would turn around immediately and contact every short-term rental permit holder in preparation for the July 4th holiday to make them aware of this from the very beginning.
Awesome. And then, this is just curiosity. The 25 pounds, this wouldn't apply to?
Nope, sorry, I turned it off.
That's okay.
Sorry.
So is there already a social host ordinance if you have 25 pounds plus that you get in trouble, or do you have to find that person? I'm not quite certain where one ends and the other begins.
So the penal code actually assigns those penalties already. Penal code 12700 actually defines what the penalties are for under 25 pounds of illegal fireworks, 25 pounds to 100, and 100 and over. And it increases even for the lightest, less than 25 pounds of illegal fireworks. You could be subject to jail. You could be subject to a $1,000 fine with the current penal code, but it doesn't apply to hosts. It's usually for the possession of or the use of, and this is where it expands that enforcement. We just adopted that same breakdown in levels between 25 and more because over 25 pounds, that becomes a significant level of fireworks, and we would be taking enforcement action to support what the current laws are, which means that they would get either a heavier fine, and the law allows for up to $2,000 to $10,000, or jail for that one. In the past, I don't know what our for enforcement was for over and under, but they generally started out as citations, and then we've referred them to the district attorney for prosecution.
So maybe I'm not following. Does the social host ordinance apply to 25 and over? It's just that the penalty looks different?
Thank you.
That's what I'm not clear on.
We're trying to adopt it maybe for 25 and under. Now, we could write it in to apply for those larger ordinances, but we wouldn't be enacting the social host ordinance for those fines for those that are over 25 pounds. That would be, we would be taking care of those people through our existing laws.
Completely separate. Okay. And then I'm not certain if I think it's worth it or not, but I think it's worth having a conversation. Should we wait for the counties to see if we're in the same, if we want to line up with them, or do we, I don't know if it's easier to enforce something that it's more global, or if it doesn't really matter, we need to do what's right for us, but it just makes me ponder.
If I may add, if I may add a comment, I have gotten a look at the counties of San Luis draft. It's redlined right now, so we don't know how much is going to be adopted. Ours is set up very, very similar to theirs in most respects. It's written very differently, but the penalties and the assignments of who is a host is very similar as to also Elk Grove. So we sort of blended the two of those together.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation, Commander. Have we ever had 25-pound violations? Just out of curiosity.
I know.
You know, that's a really great question. I don't even know what 25 pounds looks like.
I'm just curious. That seems like it'd be more of a tourist type thing.
We've had a significant amount before. In my view, anything that, is air launched and can start fires, that only takes one. But
absolutely.
That's a lot, yeah.
Also, just to be clear on the per occurrence, I mean, I could set off 4 firecrackers and get a $4,000 fine, correct?
That is correct.
So you mentioned maximum one time, but I don't know that you meant to mention that. Is there a maximum on this?
We did not write a maximum.
Okay.
Okay. That would be a determination.
24,000, 25,000. Okay.
I do know that Elk Grove had a pretty significant one this past 4th of July. I don't know the exact, but I want to say it was 10,000 or more, even 100,000. It was if $100,000 worth, but they also are negotiating those fines with the property owner as well.
Okay. And I like it. I'm not in favor of waiting on it, because if we wait, we won't enforce until next year. We can always adjust this next year, can't we? If we find that something's not, okay. That was it. Thank you.
Okay. So am I understanding kind of based on what we've talked about, is this more of a, even if we went through with this ordinance, having the social host ordinance go on the property owners as well, it's more of a conversation before just immediately fining the property owners. It's more of a conversation first, investigation. Who are who are the tenants that lit off the firework? Because I'm also thinking about local property owners as well. We have a lot here too. So I was just curious if there's a conversation with the property owners first.
Yeah, I will say I've had some conversations with our chief about this, and Elk Grove has a process now where they actually send it in the mail and they don't send an officer, and we both agree that's not the way Grover Beach wants to conduct our business. We're a small community. We want to go out and investigate it. It's our determination that an officer will make contact, obviously try to find out the person responsible, and then are there mitigating circumstances? Are there anything else going on? That's the way we do all of our investigations, because realizing we don't know all of the circumstances involved, and we certainly want to take those steps to make sure we identify the person responsible and that there isn't anything. I can't think of too many reasons why an illegal firework would be mitigating, but we always leave the door open, and so that's the way we do it. This will not interdict 100% of our illegal fireworks, but I believe it will deter quite a bit of them.
Okay. And okay, because I was just piggybacking off of Councilmember McCory Driscoll we talked about the people who are away from town who have their rentals here in Grover Beach, but this is including the local property owners as well.
That is correct.
Okay. And then my other question was, so would this ordinance work when it's even not in the act? "Quote unquote" in the act, when there's not somebody lighting a firework immediately, it's just we see the debris and then the investigation starts?
Yes, in fact, that's why the social host ordinance has become so important. It's the aftermath, right? Typically, we don't get to see the person setting off the firework, but we may see a person from the drones walking inside a house. And we may not know exactly who that person is at the time, just a person walking into a house, but we know the house. And if we can investigate that, determine who's responsible for the house, what the situation was where those fireworks were being used, that's how that social host ordinance would be utilized.
Okay. And then my last question, I know we just approved a map, and our map was very gray instead of red and yellow with fire, being fire hazard. Thank you. I was like, what is that called? You would know. And that's why we allow the safe and sane. But how many fires do you know of, or maybe if you don't know, have been started in Grover Beach because of a firework?
I do not know that. I'm not sure if our fire chief has that information.
Chief Hallett, thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. From our recent records of doing research within our reporting system, we could not identify any fires within Grover Beach related to fireworks. Within our 5 cities fire response area, we did have 2 fires last year. However, they were not in Grover Beach.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you. All right, any other questions? I think there's.
Yeah.
I think the fires obviously are the important thing, but mainly this is for the noise and the disturbance it causes all the dogs, pets, and people. So I think the fires are important too, but it's nice to hear that hadn't started any, but this is more for noise.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
So I just want to circle back with the short-term rental owners. Rob, you had inferred something about they could be held in as violations. We could go back and charge them as well as their guests. There is something between the two of you with how it would be handled, not the renewing the licenses part. But again, I'm just a little bit confused. I know who we're going after is who's staying at the property, or if it's a resident and they're the property owner. I'm still confused a little bit now about the short-term rental. Who is responsible? Is it just the guest, or is it the guest and the owner?
So we would want to find the person that's most responsible. If we can identify and cite the person that's on site, we would certainly do that. That defines under the host description as someone that's in control or possession of the property, which would be a rentee of that property. However, if that person is gone, if it's a one-night stay, if we're following up and we can't get that information, a property owner could be held liable in that case. And the ordinance is written that states the property owner has to take reasonable steps to prevent or deter activity. If we, by virtue of communication with those short-term rental property owners, have said, hey, this cannot happen on 4th of July, Well, we would want to know what reasonable steps did you take with those tenants, with those rentees to say, you're not supposed to do that? Did they have any communication? Was there anything posted in the house that said on 4th of July, please don't? Those would be, in our view, reasonable steps. If a property owner did nothing, then I think there is a good possibility we would hold that property owner liable for that activity.
Okay.
And I would just also add, too, that this would likely be handled if it was a short-term rental through any type of, service or anything like that. They routinely would withhold monies or deposits or things like that. So even if the person who was renting the short-term rental was liable, but we couldn't determine that, and it went back to the homeowner, then as the operator, they would then be able to take steps through that process to be able to get the remuneration for the fines that they were assessed.
All right. And I'll just, the reason I ask is again, I don't want illegal fireworks, and I want that understood. I worry about the slippery slope of accusing a property owner or making a property owner financially responsible for a crime of any sort that's committed on their property without their knowledge. I don't know how we can put into any rental agreement everything, basically obey the law. But what else can we do? What else can any property owner do, whether it's a short-term rental? And then again, where's the slippery slope? Where do we stop? Somebody else creates a more violent crime. Is that vacation rental owner responsible for that? How would they ever know that somebody was going to create that kind of crime? So that's what I'm trying to get at, is what are we really, other than stopping the fireworks, I'm a little bit concerned about overstepping people's rights here.
I think, to speak to your concerns, one thing I will say is that this ordinance is specific for illegal fireworks only, and we want to make sure that there's no unclarity about that. This is specific only for that circumstance, so we certainly cannot and will not apply this to any other crime, because it really will not expand beyond illegal fireworks. As to who's responsible, our police department still has due diligence and a good investigation and making sure that we've taken steps to identify that party responsible. Did they take appropriate steps? Is the property owner taking steps to alleviate those concerns? Those would all be documented, and I have full confidence in our officers, because I'm going to be the ones telling them to do that they'll do a good job, and they do.
And then I do have one more question to follow up with this. How many violations do we think are by outside residents versus residents that live here?
It's a great question. I was actually asked that, and I'm going to follow up and do some research to see if our data system captured that information. I don't know at this point whether those were committed by residents or outside residents or short-term rentals, but it will be research we'll be doing to gather some more data, probably in advance of our next council.
Okay. And that brings, sorry, I said one more question, but I do have one more. So we know it's illegal in the city already. Why do we need to take this extra step?
The primary reason is that it limits, right now, as the current law sets, it limits our ability to conduct that investigation or enforcement after the fact. We have to get there and observe that person actually committing the offense, lighting the firework off. Often, by the time the officer drives down the street, you can see the police car coming even in the dark. We know that. And so by the time the officer gets on site, that person has disappeared or stepped back, and we don't know who did it. This would allow us to say, it's on that property. We saw the person walk into that house. That's tools for that investigation. It's not going to solve 100% of those incidents, but it's going to give us a greater degree of compliance and a tool.
And maybe to that point, since as far as in the past, since when, because this is an administrative process versus the typical process is, like I said, through penal code and other parts too. So for that, when our city has cited different people, when the officer is there, when they've seen it, they've done all those parts, have all those situations been pursued by the district attorney's office?
That's another question I'll have to follow up, because the district attorney doesn't always tell us, the result only when it's been referred back for further investigation or when the case has been canceled. But if it's prosecuted separately, we sometimes don't get that information. So I'll have to follow up on that for you.
Gotcha.
Let me jump into there. So additionally, under this ordinance that's proposed that individuals would be administratively cited. And so the administrative citations would not go to the district attorney's office. They would be handled internally. And as part of that process, they are also entitled to an appeal before a hearing officer. And so that potentially assuaging your fears is they would then have the ability to appeal to the hearing officer and say, present their case for why they shouldn't be held liable, and or the hearing officer could reduce the amount or dismiss the amount appropriately under that process as well.
And with the whole over 25 pounds part, obviously that's a totally different type of scenario too, but does there any harm us having this administrative process too, because once again, the penal code stuff too, they presume that's the district attorney's office's discretion of how they're going to pursue that. And like, let's assume there was a case that for whatever reason stuff they didn't do, but on our end, administratively, at least we could do something about it, because if someone has over 25 pounds of dangerous fireworks, I think that's probably good to have administrative side cite them too. I mean, it's not one to let that one slide too. So is there any actual issue of us having both paths exist, basically the administrative side and then PC 12700 exists to do on two ends at the same?
On the top of my head, I can't think of any reason why we couldn't adopt that secondary part. I would just have to look at other ordinances to see if anyone's already done that and figure it out if there's any language to support that. But yeah.
Okay. Those are my other questions.
Any other questions before? Okay. I will now open for public comment on this item. I don't have any speaker slip. Ms. Sells? Ladies first.
Hi, I'm Catherine Sells. I live on Mentone. I had an idea a couple of years ago about dealing with fireworks. If we had the sellers of the fireworks, I think it's crap for a charity organization, but hey, what do I know? They could sell the fireworks, but they couldn't release them until the day of the holiday. They can sell them ahead of time, give people a receipt, store them away, and then they would only be able to pick them up on the day of whatever holiday is, New Year's, July 4th. And then you would know that anything that goes off apart from those days is illegal. That's my thought.
Thank you.
Lauren Westfall. Question. I know last year or actually maybe it was this year. Anyways, there was a vehicle that was driving around North Grover, basically throwing fireworks out the window. So maybe we should put a clause in there, because I know you two at the very end have not been around here during World War III of 4th of July. That goes on for 5 days before, 5 days after. But have a clause in there, because once these people find out this ordinance is in effect, maybe use people's cameras to prove that it's a drive-by. But I mean, to me, somebody's going to drive by, throw fireworks. It's more of a little fire hazard, especially, right now with everything being dry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Dave Ekbaum, Grover. I might run over here a little bit. I'm listening to all these different stories, and I love fireworks. I've obviously been in the wrong place, maybe the wrong country anymore, but you're celebrating the independence of our nation. And you're trying now, I'm listening to a police commander asking you to enlist the property owners to help him police his law, his ordinance. I have so many problems going right through my head. I had a tenant here 2 years ago. He shot somebody in one of my places. I had fought for a year, $6,000 in lawyer fees, plus I had to bribe him to finally move, so I can't evict him. If I was going to go in and see some tenant put off a firecracker and I go in and try and enforce this and say, give me your fireworks or give me your other cracker or something, should I have a gun? How involved do I have to get to protect myself from getting, to police this whole ordinance? It doesn't make sense. Kathy, I don't know your last name, I'm sorry. I agree with you about, we have to, you're trying to give somebody a ticket or a fine, they haven't done anything wrong. If you're going to catch somebody setting off illegal fireworks, great, fine them, arrest them, I don't care what you do with them. Now you're trying to enforce, stick me as a property owner with a tenant's actions. We're in the wrong country for that. I thought we should be responsible for our own actions. Now you want us to enforce your idea of what should be done. The first thing we saw up here was a little blurb about it's so dangerous, the deaths and the property damage that's done. Well, how many people have died from fireworks in Grover or the 5 cities? He did talk about there was 2 fires a couple years ago. There could have been kitchen fires or something. It could have been just this coincidence that happened to be on that week. You're overplaying this whole thing, and you're just taking more rights away from us. California is already is way overboard on tenant rights versus property owners. It's skewed so bad, it's crazy. We can't evict anybody anymore. Now you want us to go in and police our own tenants because of their actions. That's not my job. That's your job. And how you think you're going to find somebody that didn't do anything wrong? Me, because I own the property and something is done on my property, I'm responsible. I don't understand that. I can't imagine it being legal, but...
Thank you.
So anyway...
Thank you for your comments.
Obviously, I'm in the wrong place. I wish that you
Thank
people
you for your
would
comments, Mr. Ekbaum.
get back to
Thank you for your
common
comments.
sense.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's beeping. Thank you for your comments. Yes. Thank you.
How long can I stand up
You
here
can't.
without...
I'm gonna have to recess if you continue to stay
Do
there.
I get arrested? Do I
No,
get fined?
I will
Because
recess the
this is
meeting.
something I'm
This
actually
is-
doing.
I
I
know,
would
this
be
is-
happy to
So
pay the
this-
results of what
Right.
is
So
happening
this is the first warning
because
that
I'm
you're
doing it.
disrupting the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else would like to speak on this item? No? Okay. Anybody on the line? Okay.
We have Karen Bright.
Okay.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call. First off, we're talking about illegal activities here. I believe it's important that the owner of the property, whether they live locally or out of town, also be responsible to their neighbors, the neighborhood, and our community. Basically to say, the property owners must have some skin in this game in order to rein in this illegal activity. If the property involved is a rental, whether it's long-term rental or short-term vacation rental, the property owner should be ultimately responsible for those who use their property. How the property owners handle any penalties assessed is obviously up to them via security deposits, increased rent, whatever. The fact is, it's an issue. I have seen grown men, Vietnam vets. We have a huge firework go off, and they hit the ground. And then they look around, and they are embarrassed. It's something that is illegal and must be dealt with. So thank you very kindly for taking the time to look at this issue and take care of the matter. Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else on the line?
Yes, we have Jim Jaffe.
Jim Jaffe, Grover Beach. I just wanted to thank the council for reviewing this issue. It's an awful issue that needs addressing. I believe the year before there was 5, I don't call them arrests. I guess they were arrests. And then this last year there were 7. That's a low number compared to the amount of fireworks to go off. And the reason that number is low, because the police have their hands tied. This new ordinance allows them to go after the parcel number, the people that are responsible. I believe that the host that's on that property should be responsible. It needs to be done. It's not a light matter. As the previous caller said, that people hit the ground. Sometimes our animals are affected. It's also important that we are a city that leads the county. The county is thinking about doing this. And our city should be leading the way also. Other places might follow our lead. It has to start somewhere, and I hope it starts here. And I hope that the bottom line is that you figure out a solution and fix this problem. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else on the line? Okay, I will now close public comments on this item. Just some questions, and then I'll bring it back to council. From our public comment, is there anything in this ordinance as it stands right now that asks for the use of like resident assistance via their Ring cameras and stuff regarding the vehicle that was moving and throwing fireworks out the window? If that happened, let's say. I don't know if I remember that story specifically, but I think it's a good valid point. Is there anything in here that says that you can go ask for some footage from somebody else's Ring camera?
There's nothing specifically in the ordinance, but I think it would be good to point out that that would be part of our investigative process, irregardless of the ordinance. We would do that anyway. And I think just to speak to what that process is to help clarify, so if we received a call of illegal firework or we observed it via our drones, the next step would be to send an officer team to that area residence where we saw it. That officers would be responsible for identifying who that person was to the best of their ability, where they were living or staying based on that observation. And so that investigation has to take place first before any fines, before use of that ordinance. So our goal would be to identify who it was that set off the firework, where they were living. If, per se, a firework went off in the center of, just a random block, we would go there, identify what house was involved, and we would try to find out who's living at the house. For us, it's really more important that we identify that person, whether they be a renter or an owner, short-term, long-term. It's really that person that we most want to speak to, because that's the person that's most responsible for that incident. An out-of-town property owner, someone that's not aware of the activity, that's not the person we're most wanting to investigate for that. Now, there are provisions in the ordinance for that purpose, but we really want to have, is there Ring camera footage? Is there abilities to look beyond? We would do that as part of our investigation because it's phenomenal technology. It's helped us with a lot of investigations, so certainly we would use that.
And the point of this ordinance is so that with involving the property owners is not for the property owners to go by and stop the illegal activity. It's to assist you in catching and investigating that illegal activity. Correct?
Yes, we would not want any property owners involved in the actual enforcement of any illegal activity. What we're talking about is communication with those tenants in advance of the 4th of July to say, hey, this is the ordinance in town, and what that communication looks like, we're still developing, but we would want that communication between the tenants to make sure they're aware of this ordinance in advance. We are also going to do a good deal of communication on our end through our social media, through any outlet we have, to communicate this to the public, that this is the ordinance in town, and then this is, we would love 100% compliance before the 4th of July ever hit. That would be the ideal circumstance. So as close to that number as we can get would be our goal. But we certainly do not want property owners to be put in harm's way. If they experience an incident on their property, they would call us, and then we would help them.
Okay. And regarding the outreach, I guess this is my own question, but it just popped up in my head. Regarding the outreach, is there any plan for any outreach to all the residents, not just property owners, but all the residents as well, regarding the 1,000 per firework or per thing? And then thank you for my words, you guys. Thank you. And in addition to all that, not just the property owners, but all the residents.
Yes, we would have as the city manager spoke to, once this got approved, if that was your choosing, then we would launch a public marketing campaign from our end using any outlet at our disposal, and that would be a communication specific we would work on.
Okay.
Just to add to that, we would undertake a significant communication effort using all of our different platforms to do this should the council go forward. I guess I'll just add that this is being brought to you as an option. ultimately it's a council decision about whether you think this is an appropriate tool to use in the fight against illegal firework activity. We're bringing this to you because every year we hear from the council and the community that this is an issue in our community. We have a great police department. They do a marvelous job of enforcement. We have more citations than any other community, and every year we hear this is a significant issue. So it's being brought to you because other communities have used this social host ordinance. It's not unique to just this one issue, but it's an issue for which the jurisdiction, through its governing body, believes holding property owners and or tenants more responsible has public value in using this as one more tool in our toolbox. Ultimately, it's up to the council. If you feel this is an appropriate tool for us to use, we think absent this, we will continue our current enforcement efforts, do the very best we can with our drone Air Force and the police department efforts, and every year we'll have additional complaints and concerns, and we'll be fighting this each and every year. So that's just where we are at the staff level. Ultimately, this is a council decision about whether we wish to proceed, and tonight, again, it's not the ordinance itself. This is just to set the stage for what an ordinance could include, and if you feel that there's enough here to advance into an ordinance, there still will be an action, a vote at a later date regarding this possibility. But just wanted to kind of put that context from a staff perspective. We think this is valuable, but ultimately it has to be a council policy decision that this is a tool for us to benefit us.
Yeah, I think it's proactive to get all this discussion happening right now so you can write up a nice, clean, clear ordinance for us to look over. So I think I need some more discussion over and questions over it because I've been back and forth on this. I've been supportive. I've been, listening to the community and then coming back to it, hearing that this is more of an investigation. It's more of an assistance tool. So let's talk more. So
So first, I hate the idea of having rules that aren't enforced. I was a teacher for 20 years, and a dress code that's not enforced, then get rid of the dress code. So it's so frustrating. So if this is the law, then you have to have the tools to enforce it. That's my opinion. I do share your concern about property owners. I really think this is an issue about who's on the premise, not who actually owns the property, unless there was some weird co-optation that somebody was marketing to come to my house and light off fireworks. I guess that would be an exception to my feeling on that. But if a crime was committed, if an Airbnb gets into a fight and somebody gets murdered, I don't think we go after the property owner. So any curtailing this really to the person on site is what resonates with me. But also simultaneously making sure, I can't imagine how frustrating it is to show up and be like, who set off the fireworks? Right? I mean, it would be better to not have the rule if you can't enforce it. And since it's a rule that I think, or a law that I think we need to have better enforcement tools.
I agree 100% with that. And I think that you would do an investigation and not just send out a ticket to the property owner. I don't like that idea. I do like the idea of storing fireworks, but the problem with that is that those fireworks they sell are not illegal. They don't make noise, and so we have to store illegal fireworks, and that's not going to happen. No, because you don't know where they buy them. So that's a great idea, but unfortunately, those fireworks don't make any noise, and they don't leave the ground, and they are legal. So this is just about illegal fireworks, and the investigation process would have to be pretty thorough. I would not like just to see someone, as Mr. Ekbom said, send him out a ticket because he owns a property. And I think that you would do a good job with that. And we need to do something, I think. Thank you.
I want to thank you, Matt, for all the additional comments and clarification. So I have a better sense that we're not quite there yet. Knowing that, I want to say I feel like this is worth continuing on to get us to the place that you need to have the tool without having some sort of, I'll call it a threat, but some sort of comments in there about holding it over the property owner's head. except for the fact if it's the property owner in Grover Beach, because I'm still not clear out of the violations we had and what we've experienced, how many people actually are buying illegal fireworks that live here and setting them off. I think we're picking on rentals. I don't know how much they are actually, what percentage of illegal fireworks is going on rental properties versus owners. So I do want an owner of the property, if they're living there, to be accountable. I'm not saying I don't want that. So if you can continue to work on this a little bit and help me better understand that we're not going after the rental owners per se, because again, I think it's a slippery slope. And thank you for explaining that it would not to apply to anything else, but I would hate to see that this become the tool you need, and the next tool you need is to make a property owner responsible for somebody else's heinous crimes that occurred on their property, as was mentioned earlier. So thank you.
I hear about this I hear about this issue all the time every year from residents, and it's not even the same ones. It's different ones that just bring it up in conversations. And I think, was it last year within the county we had, we had the most citations, if I remember, compared to all the other agencies. And yes, our amounts, call volumes dropped down too for these, but even with the existing state laws and, penal code aspect too, it clearly doesn't stop this from happening. And that's why I think we need to have another tool to do this in the administrative process. The good part about it though, and maybe that's an aspect that could be delved into deeper, is a good faith aspect, is that if property owners are actually willing to work in good faith, that's one thing, because some property owners, if they're just there to collect their own, income from it too, and they know that their place has a reputation, and it's like becomes the party one. Of course, they're going to let it happen year after year after year. But that's not what we're looking for too. So as long as that there's a bridge to get to the outcome we're seeking, that's something we could work with though. And since it's administrative just through our city side too, we have that flexibility to actually do these kind of things. So I think to address the concern to bring up, Councilmember Corey Driscoll, is that as long as we have that kind of dynamic in play, that where it's like, yes, this isn't just the city trying to get revenue, from this part too, but it is to achieve this outcome. If the property owners are willing to work with us, and that's why that one dynamic in there that was, it wouldn't apply to, to a host who initiates contact with law enforcement or fire officials. I mean, different ways to actually show that they're actually trying to work in good faith. I think we could get there without it just being the concern you're bringing about that, well, what's next too, because obviously, property owners find plenty of things that go on by the people who are renting from them that they didn't want to begin with, while this is just clearly one very focused aspect. But like I said, since it's in the administrative side, we get a lot more flexibility than penal code, which is a lot more prescriptive through case law and other different dynamics too. So I do want to see us go forward with this to export more, maybe more definitive on good faith, what that might mean too, so that it's clear to property owners that this is where we're trying to get to. Are you looking to help out or not? And I think all of them should be saying yes. And that's what good community members in our city do. And also, by the end of the day, too, they got Safe and Sane fireworks. People could celebrate through that plenty of ways too. I mean, there's a reason why illegal fireworks are illegal, because they're dangerous. I mean, they have a lot more severe consequences. That yes, a sparkler you could play with that and stuff too, but it doesn't have that same severity that we're talking about too. And of course, when people are purchasing Safe and Sane fireworks, they're supporting our local nonprofits that give back to the community. So so that's one area we're not penalizing into, which I'm glad to see. But one of the pieces I do think we should talk more is that as far as any of the fines that do come through, that actually do go through the process and are charged through, where should that go back into? Because this, it should have a nexus, I think, towards these efforts. And if we get people to stop doing illegal fireworks and we get zero revenue every year after year after year, that's great too. But as far as that, ones that do come in place, I do think it probably should go towards things like, for instance, like maybe the drone program too, since it's the drones that are, really advancing this. Maybe there should be other pieces that, like I said, has a nexus, so it makes sense why these are being charged. Because someone who's just like, oh, you're just doing it to put in your general fund, like, I know someone's going to bring that up. That always happens. Mm-hmm. Versus, no, this goes back into this program to achieve, once again, the outcome of not having illegal fireworks in our city. So that's one piece I do want to see us look into as far as how to give direction on that sense.
So as of right now from the council, I'm hearing bring back more info on who is setting off the fireworks, having this ordinance not apply to anything else except for the fireworks, and then really working with the good faith aspects, or being more definitive on the good faith aspects with property owners, and discussing where do the fines go. But I think I still need some clarity on, in this, I think it's the next one, who is the host? Are we going to include next one. Owners of the property, persons who have, because I think that we're all in agreement that we want to celebrate 4th of July. We want to have the safe and sane fireworks. We're really discussing the illegal fireworks. It's about the sound. It's about the, fire risk. And I'm hearing that police department is really going for the person who is lighting the firework at that time. And having this definition of the host is just helpful as a tool in addressing who gets fined for that. So I just want to hear more from the council of, do we want to redo what this means, what hosts are? Is it the owners? Is it the people who have the rights to use, possess, and occupy? Or are you comfortable with continuing with this language? or do we need to change it to really only be the tenants or whoever's in the property?
I think you have owners that live in their property here in Grover Beach that are probably offenders. So I think owners of property is appropriate.
Okay.
I think it's when we get into the whole, if the property is rented out. That's where I think it's getting really kind of mushy. So yes, we still need owner of private property because they might be the violator. If we remove that and it's somebody that lives here, we're not helping you at all, are we? So I think it's just in defining that aspect of it. I think that's what we're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm far more comfortable ticketing the people that are actually setting off the fireworks, whether they're a short-term tenant, a long-term tenant, or the property owner. I really believe that's where the consequences need to be directed.
Okay. Any other comments?
I'm fine with the current list too, because as Councilmember Corey Driscoll said too, is that if we removed owners of the property, then we're actually only focusing on rentals, which doesn't make sense either. But one thing too, actually, just as I remembered too, is I think we should, as far as the more than 25 pounds one, I would like to see, as far as if we're moving forward with this, that it's not, it's not exempted, because like I said, why not have this as a different path too, in addition to, the more severe penal code side too, because it's something that within our control we could do versus, just letting that not occur. So that's just another little aspect I thought, if we could address too, as far as that kind of direction.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, there's no vote on this. I think, did you get all of the direction that you need from us?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much for your time and answering all of our questions. And I know that this is it's very, I guess, controversial because people want to celebrate, but it's also, it's scary. So anyways, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we will now go on to our council committee reports. Mr. Wyrick, that's committee reports, not communicate. No, I'm just kidding. So I'll start with Councilmember McCrory Driscoll.
Well, I've been gone a while. So I only have one report, and that was that the city manager and I met with the CEO of Visit SlowCal and had coffee about 3 weeks ago. And she reported to us just on some of the upcoming what would I call it? Permits. They're going to have to requalify and re-sign up cities and counties. So they've come up with them. She was just kind of filling us in to expect all of that. We don't meet with them very often. We don't have formal meetings very often, but it was great for her to give us the information and the things that are coming up this year, and that's renewals of the licensing and things like that with for Visit SlowCal. Thank you.
Wonderful. Councilmember Tuggle.
So the only meeting that I had since we last met was for the South County Chambers. It was the mixer. It was held out at Avila Lighthouse, which is being renamed. Ooh, and you're the first to hear it. Avila Beach Club, I believe, is the new name.
Nice.
And I didn't realize how many hotels that they own all the way up to Paso. They spent $15 million on a hotel in Paso. Anyhow, and Kim, the assistant at the chamber, moved back to Fresno, so there was a nice farewell for her. That's it.
Okay, Councilmember Wyrick.
So I'm feeling better, so I know which part of the agenda I'm in. No worries.
I had to round you.
That's okay. The only one I have to report is on Thursday, April 17th. I attend the Community Action Partnership of San Luis County, aka CAPSLO, what most people know them. Their board of directors regular meeting, and basically we covered some routine business items and had another internal agency presentation to illuminate us on some things. Additionally, I did have, since I'm new to the board, my formal board of directors orientation to better learn about its governance structure, because it's a little bit unique because of how it's authorized in federal law, and there's just a lot of different dynamics to it, but also how, because of its way it's been authorized, that it does focus really just on assisting low-income people through its programs. And I did get to tour both their energy and homelessness programs to better learn about specifically those aspects of the work they do in our county, and found them quite enlightening too from the angle that they take them at. So that's my report.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No meetings. I just met with Mr. Shaw in regards to being a new alternative for you on the South County Transit Committee, and they just went over what we went over tonight. So,
oh, good,
yeah,
wonderful,
and welcome me to the committee as an alternative.
Oh, good.
That was
okay.
it.
I do not have any committee reports, so we'll move on to council communications. Councilmember McCrory Driscoll. How was Ireland?
Ireland was great. I think I'm still a little bit tired, jet laggy. I had a very long flight home, but it was great. I'm sorry I missed the last meeting. I heard that it went really, really well, and as I expressed to our city manager when I met with him today, I am very proud to be here and be a part of this. And so I just want to say that I missed you guys.
Oh, we missed you too.
And I do have souvenirs and things, but they're still in my suitcase. I'll get it. So, thank you.
Councilmember Tuggle.
I know a lot of us attended the rainwater reclamation and went by and checked that out. I know I'm going to steal everybody's, I'm sorry, and the community park with CJ. Just inspiring to have community members of their own time and energy pour into our community. I went up to Earth Day SLO for their presentation, which was nice. Two things. I'm excited about serving food at Finn's. That's next Tuesday. Yes, my calendar right? No. I did get fired for being a waitress, so well, not really. My dad gave me a $50 tip and told me to quit, which is similar but different. It's pretty much the same. So I'm a little bit anxious, but I'm going to do better this time. And the gentlemen that are concerned about the homeless in their backyard, for lack of a better way of saying it, first, I just want to make sure that, I can take point and somebody's take point to tell them that we said we're bringing, like we've already asked for that to come forward. And I'll go for a walk with them because I would like to understand what they're talking about visually better. So maybe I can connect with them, or I don't know.
Just to touch on that really quick, I did speak to him before the meeting and told him that we were going to staff was going to bring back the report. I have a question for our chief in a second. I'll go when it's my turn. But yeah, I did speak to him and told him that there is going to be an item coming back.
Awesome. So, and I'm willing to walk, so I need to connect with him.
Okay. Or no, sorry, I'm out of order. This way.
You can go to the Mayor Pro Tem first.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Otherwise, he's going to steal my only thing. Pancake breakfast this Sunday coming up. And I know Clint's always there. And I noticed the correspondence between the people coming back to Grover, the unhoused, is the fence they put up in Pismo. I'm sure you've noticed that. It's state. Yeah, state had put up a kind of a cheap fence, but it's
just the beginning.
Yeah, this is the beginning, and that's what we talked about. You're going to bring back, and we'll probably do something similar. I came over to the water reclamation at the Discoveries. Yeah, they threw me out because you guys were already there. But no more than 2 council members. But I was disappointed that many people didn't show up, and they still have all those rain barrels. So I guess we'll do it again.
Yeah.
So next time.
I think that they were talking about doing it again during the summer when the weather's a little bit better.
Yeah.
The weather really got everybody down.
Although it was a nice day when you went.
I know.
It seemed like it. What happened to our rain,
Yeah.
right? It's all these clouds all weekend and no rain.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was it.
Absolutely. Okay.
Actually, Mayor Pro Tem, I'm surprised I have to bring this one up that you didn't first, which was Coffee with Council.
Oh.
So last Thursday, April 24th, I joined Mayor Pro Tem Robert for the second Coffee with Council that their city's done this year. This one was hosted at Red Bee Coffee, and we only had, to be generous, a handful of people who came by that morning for some informal conversations. But they did ask questions, and most importantly, they were able to share what's important to them, to us. And that's the important part to hear, because obviously these are limited settings for that to occur. So I appreciate their interest, and my colleague Mayor Pro Tem Robert for also taking time out of his day and the city manager to join us for this community engagement that occurred. Since you walked back in here, I do want to say that so last Wednesday, April 23rd, I did complete our Grove Beach Police Department's first Citizens Academy, Class 1. And so the last couple months on Wednesday evenings, I joined a lot of other residents and getting to better understand the work our police department does year-round, such as patrol, traffic, the crime analyzing they do, major accidents, investigations, and more. And it was really clear to me that for a relatively small police department, we have that. There's a lot that's being done, and we get different reports here at our council. But during that experience, it was clear that there's different layers of things that, when it comes to public safety, that's occurring that's not always obvious that they're doing, and it's really important. So I want to thank their police department's leadership, the coordinators, the officers, the personnel for providing these informative learning sessions with, and I will say, a lot of enthusiasm. Everyone who's presenting, you could tell that they were into doing the work that their jobs are. So that was very good, because we had a very engaged group of people who were participating too, who equally were interested in things. So that was great to have too, and it was cool to see those new shirts too. So I know other people are looking forward to potentially another future Citizens Academy by the police department. So I don't think you're gonna have problems getting people to sign up for that. And then yesterday, on Sunday, April 27th, I participated in our informal city's spring garden tour, and there was 30 different residential and business ones that were identified on the map. So I got to see there's too many of them, but I got to see a lot of them, but including all those in District 4, so I did cover that one. And so I want to thank our city's community services staff and our appointed Parks, Recreation, Beautification commissioners who participated, and those who participate throughout the city for that, because it's always good to see people who do put in some different effort to make sure that, it looks well, it's beautiful, and of course the drought tolerant resistant ones are always cool as well. And also earlier and stuff, I was at the Exploration Discovery Center's WaterWise 1-2. I kind of caught the tail end of it though, but I did check out the boards to see kind of what they were explaining to people on the water retention barrel reclamation processes that people could do at home. And on Saturday, April 25th, I attended the People Self-Help Housing, sometimes you see us in their reports as PSHH, their Builders Game, their 2025 one, which was their sold-out fundraiser this year. And always for context, so People Self-Help Housing, they're one of the primary partners in our city's Cleaver and Clark Commons affordable housing project that would have over 50 units that broke ground. It was in February of last year, I believe, in 2024, and obviously it's under construction at South 13th Street. And Richard Gerhardt, who people know from KSVY, he was the MC for the event, and the main activity was seeing the 8 unique playhouses that different competitors actually created. One was a fire station, one was a pet hospital, a movie theater, restaurants, and one that shouldn't be surprising that won the People's Choice Award was the Chicken Farm Barn that actually had 2 live chickens in it. So, but it was good to see a lot of cross-section of people throughout our county's community supporting People Self-Help Housing, because what people generally see when we see these affordable housing projects is the physical side of it, but they really did highlight that they also raise funds because they have their service-enriched supportive housing programs internally, such as case management. But also for their youth, they have their Camino Scholars, which is for the local students living in those housings that helps with tutoring and personalized learning plans to help in their academics too. So it was really good to see a lot of other stuff to, be there too, because I personally support a lot of those efforts that, yes, people get housing, but also they're able to become more self-sufficient and thrive within it too. Also yesterday, yesterday was a busy day, but I was at the Central Coast Autism Spectrum Center's 17th Annual Walk for Autism and Awareness Fair. I try to join that every year too. There's, of course, hundreds of people there, people with autism, their families, friends, service providers, and of course the idea is to bring greater awareness and acceptance to the community for people with autism. And there's also a lot of different vendors who do a lot of other activities too, but having people who are close to me in my life too, who have autism, and also others who have family members too, I do know it's very important to have full acceptance and inclusion, because it's sometimes a part that we're quite aware of, but we don't always think about. And actually, one thing though I did remember, it wasn't directly related to that too, but maybe the chief can answer too, but because since April is World Autism Awareness Month too, I believe the Police Officer Association still selling their autism awareness patches too. So that's another way too, obviously, to support the efforts stuff that our own police department's doing. And one other last thing is, the mayor could probably go into more if she wants, but last Tuesday, April 22nd, I was able to attend our state's newest federal senator, Adam Schiff, and our local Congress member, Salud Carball. They had a town hall host at Quessy College, so it was good to see the mayor there. And there's only a few other local electeds too who were there too, but I guess they estimated a couple thousand people, 2,000 people there. And I did recognize different Grover Beach residents in line and within the environment too. So I do appreciate our new federal senators decided to do basically their first town hall in the state too, in our county, since he was elected in November, and appreciate our local Congress member Carball for helping him co-host it too. So that's all I have.
Good. Okay. So before I go into my communications, I just wanted to ask our police chief really quickly regarding the comment of it takes 10 days to remove somebody. And I know that we're going to have something coming up soon regarding unhoused individuals, this camping ordinance, et cetera. But I just wanted to clarify that question of somebody said it's like 10 days later they can be removed. And I thought that was changed this last year.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Jim Monroe, your police chief. It does not take 10 days typically. The process is we go out, we see a tent, and we do tag it. The ordinance provides for a 72-hour warning, essentially. And then after that 72 hours, we go back, and then it can be removed. Depending on the week and depending on staffing, sometimes it can be a little bit more than 72 hours, but it's never 10 days. And we are going to be bringing something back to you, I believe, in the future to talk about maybe shortening that period to a little bit less based on some recent case law, but that would be a tool that would help us quite a bit. But yeah, we're getting to it just as soon as possible. We do go out on every Monday and Friday and some days in between to check the camps. And as of this morning, there are no active unhoused camps in the city of Grover Beach.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that clarifying question.
I also wanted to just add to that too, to add to the complexity of really everything. There is new case law that has arisen regarding the state-created danger doctrine that we do have to take a look at before we, also have to take that into account before removing individuals, because it's a separate tact that individuals are taking now, where they had the Supreme Court ruling that allows us to remove them. Now the tact is that by removing them, we're placing them in more danger, and therefore we would be liable for any harm that would come to them. So we're looking at that as well.
Okay. Okay, that was okay. All right. Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted to clarify that question, or clarify that statement. Just for my communications, I'll be very quick. Also went to the Exploration Discovery Center, the Spring Garden Tour. The town hall with Senator Schiff and Congressman Carbajal was very well attended, and just really nice to see, federal they're coming out to our community, to, Cuesta and speaking to us, to the 2,000 that were there. So just really cool to see and answering questions that it wasn't their own questions, they let the people ask the questions. So that was really nice. The highlight though, I would say of like this past month was Grover Beach hosted our monthly mayor's meeting, which was very nice. And I just wanted to thank Community Development Director Megan Martin and of course our City Manager Matt Bronson for doing a presentation. Our topic was development. And so every month we rotate each city and we have our guest speakers. So it was just really nice to see our staff flourish in this and speak to other mayors. They had a lot of great questions and we're just going through how we handle outreach, how we handle other, things outside of our control. And that was really nice to hear their input, their questions. And then we went on a little field trip, which was very nice to see real life action that the lithocrete being laid or the things are moving at that time. So just really nice to see that. We went on a field trip down to Palladium and toured Palladium. So to give the opportunity to our mayors to see how development looks like in Grover Beach was really cool and lots of really great comments and questions. So those were my council communications. So thank you so much to Matt and Megan for your help. I know I looked at you, Kristen. Sorry, I didn't mean to look. I was just looking that way. I know you were Kristen, but sorry. It's late. Are we done yet? So thank you so much for your time in doing that. So, and of course for the food. It was great. Thank you, Wendy, for ordering it. And I'll move on to the city manager's reports and comments.
Thank you, Mayor D. And Grover Beach really shined in that meeting of countywide mayors, so we were delighted to help support you in that effort. Just one item tonight, and just kind of a reflection. We talk a lot about big picture external services, police, fire, West Grand Avenue development, street repair, sewer infrastructure, Ramona Park. You may have picked up a theme in tonight's agenda regarding internal business process improvements. We have a stellar organization that's working on doing things better each and every day, finding cost efficiencies, finding ways to systemize our processes, make things even better. And you saw that tonight with our technology improvement consent item and then the enterprise fleet management program, showing a city that is modernizing and improving our processes and providing even more value for taxpayers. And I want to call out in particular Ms. Erickson, as she was the lead on the enterprise fleet management item, working with our public works director and police chief and others. But it was really Kristen who brought that to the finish line, and that'll be a significant improvement for our fleet acquisition and maintenance needs for many years to come. So I wanted to publicly thank her for her efforts as what we do internally to help make sure we deliver results for our community. Thank you.
All right, and we do not have a closed session, so I will adjourn this meeting right now.
Well, we do have city attorney comments. Keep getting cut out.
It's not on my script. It's not on my script. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I'm City Attorney Lamelli. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't bang the gavel, so we're still alive.
When you least expected, I actually have comments. So, really just wanted to take this time to confirm to council and to those in attendance that we did have a ruling in the Grover H2O City of Grover Beach motion for attorney's fees, and in that instance, the court issued a ruling denying their request seeking over $150,000 in attorney's fees, ultimately finding that the petitioners had failed to demonstrate that there was any significant benefit that had been conferred on the general public, and therefore denied their claim. So just wanted to make everyone aware of that.
Thank you for that update. Okay, so that was it for the announcements. Okay, now I will adjourn the meeting.